Chapter 865. Feather King's wings flapped as he transformed into a beam of violet gold light, instantly returning to his seat. Gu Zhantian exuded a sense of desolation as he walked towards the Cloud Prefecture's camp. The halo of the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture hung above his head, yet he was defeated by the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Feather King. Even his arrogance involuntarily retracted. The Winged Devil race is known as the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, but they only won by a hair's breadth. Gu Zhantian is indeed the top ranker of our Cloud Prefecture. An expert from the Cloud Prefecture spoke, as though he was consoling Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian's eyes flashed as he felt more comfortable in his heart. But in truth, a defeat was a defeat. Gu Zhantian himself was merely seeking comfort in his heart. At this moment, a cold snort rang out, extremely ear-piercing to the ears. Gu Zhantian furrowed his brows, and after that, he heard Jun Mingchen speaking. What top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture? Earlier in the selection test, us three brothers didn't do our best. If not, senior brother Qin wouldn't have jumped 3 levels to challenge him, and the position of the top ranker would not have fallen to him. How ridiculous. Back then you guys were defeated. Gu Zhantian obtained the position of the top ranker, but now you guys are trying to find excuses. The expert who spoke earlier glanced at Jun Mingchen. He was someone from the Battle Heaven's immortal manor, and wasn't on good terms with Qin Wentian and the others. In that case, isn't it even more ridiculous for you to find excuses for Gu Zhantian's defeat? He was defeated by someone on the same level. How shameless. Jun Mingchen intentionally mocked. Facing the sharp gaze of Gu Zhantian, he continued in arrogance. Gu Zhantian, you merely cultivated for a few years earlier, hence your cultivation base is slightly higher. As for the so-called top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, that's nothing but a joke. Not long ago, you were still incomparably arrogant, yet you were defeated by someone on the same level? How ridiculous. If this wasn't an immortal banquet, just based on your words, I would have killed the 3 of you. Gu Zhantian's voice was ice-cold as he stared at Jun Mingchen, Qin Wentian. Haha, how shameless. Jun Mingchen roared with laughter. It's easy to kill us. So what if it's during the immortal banquet? Later on, when you have the initiative to challenge me, you can just challenge me. If you want to fight me to the death, that's not a problem. Do you dare? As Jun Mingchen spoke, he pointed his finger at Gu Zhantian, exuding an incomparable arrogance, causing many to turn their gazes over. This battle was originally supposed to be fought by Jun Mingchen, but sadly, Gu Zhantian had already been defeated, and he had no way to take the initiative to challenge Jun Mingchen. Internal battle of the Cloud Prefecture. Interesting. This young man seems to be intentionally provoking Gu Zhantian, wanting to settle the grudge between them here. The spectators instantly saw through Jun Mingchen's thoughts. As for Gu Zhantian, he was just defeated and was even pointed at by Jun Mingchen. How could he swallow this anger? Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Gu Zhantian walked towards the crowd and closed his eyes to meditate. That earlier battle had stirred him up greatly. He needed to calm his heart and prepare for the next battle. Earlier, Jun Mingchen's battle had also caused Gu Zhantian to be extremely shocked. He felt some trepidation in his heart. Under the situation where he was poisoned by the blood poison, he was actually able to kill the disciple of the absolute poison immortal king. That strike left a deep impression on everyone. If Jun Mingchen was in his peak condition, he didn't know if Gu Zhantian would be able to block it. And it was precisely because of that attack that Princess Glaze placed Jun Mingchen at the very top of the list of candidates for the next round. For this battle, Jun Mingchen would be the one to fight. Jun Mingchen's silhouette stepped onto the platform, causing many to be filled with nervousness. Each of the participants before him all had extremely high combat prowess. In addition to the fact that there were already 4 participants who fought before him, Jun Mingchen would definitely choose one of the remaining 15 participants, excluding Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian. For those on the same level as Jun Mingchen, only the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, is left. I wonder if he would choose Xia Jiufeng or not. The hearts of the spectators mused. And indeed, the crowd saw Jun Mingchen staring in the direction of the Eastern Prefecture. He then stared at Xia Jiufeng as he spoke, You shall fight. Xia Jiufeng was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, and was also extremely powerful. When he fought, he was like a crazed devil, and was an extremely terrifying character. Before the immortal banquet started, many people in the external world thought highly of him, and felt that he had a high chance of becoming one of the top 3 rankers. But following the commencement of the immortal banquet, more and more peerless geniuses appeared. Not to mention the top 3, even the competition for the top 10 positions was extremely intense, and it was hard to obtain a single seat. Xia Jiufeng swiftly appeared in front of Jun Mingchen. The two of them stood facing each other, and at the same instant, an incomparably violent aura gushed forth from both of them as their constellations appeared. Jun Mingchen's king constellation seemed to have a majestic king standing behind him, as a terrifying Jun Mingchen's shadow could be seen in the air. This shadow was the constellation he had comprehended, and was extremely unique, completely different from the constellations of ordinary people. It was a fusion of many types of true intents, manifesting the physique of a king. Xia Jiufeng's constellation was actually somewhat similar to Jun Mingchen's constellation. Jun Mingchen's constellation was in the form of a human, while Xia Jiufeng's constellation was in the form of a beast. It was an incomparably terrifying demonic beast that resembled a barbaric ox king. It had a pair of horns on its head, and its entire body was crimson in color. It was tens of meters tall, and exuded an incomparably fearsome might. One was like a war king while the other was like a crazed demon king. The two of them stepped out, rushing towards each other, only to see Jun Mingchen howling as the terrifying shadow of his constellation also howled in rage. Violent killing intent gushed forth, as though there were demonic beasts and divine weapons gushing out. This entire space transformed into a chaotic battlefield, sweeping through the void, annihilating everything. Xia Jiufeng roared in rage. He punched out with both fists, instantly causing chaos to erupt in the sky. Numerous barbaric demonic beasts rushed out, suppressing everything in all directions, wanting to destroy everything. The two of them clashed head-on. Offense is the foundation of stellar martial cultivators. Any supreme expert would definitely have an extremely powerful offense. This batch of geniuses are simply too many in terms of offense. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw this. Before this, Feather King, Gu Zhantian, as well as Gusi Tianqi and Mo Wen, all of their attacks were extremely terrifying. Jun Mingchen's attacks were tyrannical, akin to a king. Xia Jiufeng's attacks were wild and savage. The collision between the two of them could be said to be world-shaking. For a period of time, a chaotic shockwave filled the air, as though the entire space was about to shatter apart. Die! Jun Mingchen roared. A boundless king halo radiated from him, causing his physique to grow even more imposing. His attacks exuded the aura of a king, casually pointing a finger at Xia Jiufeng, as though a casual punch could destroy everything in its path. The pressure on Xia Jiufeng was extremely great. He inclined his head and howled, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The constellation in his constellation grew even more chaotic as an incomparably gigantic demonic shadow appeared in the air. Xia Jiufeng soared up into the air, floating in the air. He stared at Jun Mingchen as he roared. You will lose for sure. As the sound of his voice faded, he howled once more as he punched out with both his fists. Instantly, countless barbarian demonic beasts trampled through the air, numbering in the tens of thousands. For a moment, the rumbling sounds caused the eardrums of the spectators to tremble. The attack of a single barbarian king was already incomparably powerful. Now that there were tens of thousands of barbarian king demonic beasts, how crazy was that? Jun Mingchen stood proudly in the air. Upon feeling the destructive qi gushing over, he donned a dazzling king battle robe as the king's silhouette behind him shone with a resplendent light, causing an incomparably divine battle halo to envelop Jun Mingchen. How can you defeat me? Jun Mingchen was incomparably arrogant, standing in the air as a boundless divine glow radiated from him. When the barbarian bull smashed into Jun Mingchen, it actually crumbled apart, having no way to move him at all. Rumble, boundless energy gushed forth, yet they were all destroyed. Upon seeing this scene, Xia Jiufeng, who was in the air, was completely dumbfounded. He stared in disbelief at this scene, staring at Jun Mingchen, who was advancing step by step. The spectators were all dumbfounded. Jun Mingchen. How terrifying was he? If it wasn't for him being careless and being poisoned by the blood poison earlier, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the disciple of the absolute poison sect. Xia Jiufeng's countenance drastically changed. Although this wasn't his maximum combat strength and he could still be stronger than this, when he saw this scene, his confidence was instantly shattered as his countenance turned pale. Staring at the silhouette of that Supreme King getting closer and closer, Xia Jiufeng couldn't help but to sigh in his heart. How many geniuses were there in this batch of participants? I concede. Xia Jiufeng spoke, admitting defeat. He was completely convinced. Thank you for letting me win. Jun Mingchen emotionlessly spoke. His aura of a king gradually retracted as the two of them left the battle platform together. When Jun Mingchen returned to the Cloud Prefecture's camp, he smiled at Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian, resembling the radiance of a young man. It was simply impossible to imagine the imposingness he exuded during combat. Even Gu Zhantian, who was not far away from him, had a hint of trepidation in his eyes when he stared at Jun Mingchen, feeling somewhat worried about the upcoming battle. Suppressing their cultivation bases, would he, Gu Zhantian, be able to defeat Jun Mingchen? Could this Jun Mingchen grow any stronger? Has he reached his limit? Nobody knew. Other than being poisoned by the blood poison, there was no one else who could force Jun Mingchen to his limits. And when he was poisoned by the blood poison, he destroyed his opponent with a single punch, as well as the radiance radiating from him earlier. Senior brother, it's your turn. Jun Mingchen didn't bother about the shocked crowd. He spoke to Qin Wentian. Right now they only had a single goal, to become one of the top 3 rankers. The few of them had to fight for it. At the very least, one of them had to ruthlessly slap the Deep Flame Immortal King's face. Nothing was fated. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly as he walked forward. An instant later, he appeared on the battle platform. His gaze swept over the crowd, causing many to speculate. Who would this Qin Wentian challenge? Only to see at this moment, Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto the Deep Flame Immortal King as a mocking smile appeared on his face. He would let the Deep Flame Immortal King see the ending. But before that, it was time to settle the grudge between him and Blackpeak. I challenged the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Blackpeak. Qin Wentian's voice was cold, intentionally adding the words disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King in front of Blackpeak's name. His meaning was clear even without words. He wanted to challenge Blackpeak to slap the Deep Flame Immortal King's face and let everyone see how he defeated the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King. Chapter 866. The Deep Flame Immortal King sat there, staring at Gu Zhantian, staring at the young man who stood there arrogantly, staring back at him. At this moment, the self-confidence in Qin Wentian's eyes made it seem as though to him, fighting against Blackpeak was an extremely easy task. This was a battle he would definitely win. A battle to humiliate him. The Deep Flame Immortal King. The Deep Flame Immortal King was speechless. He didn't say anything. He only glanced at Blackpeak, hoping that his disciple wouldn't disappoint him. Blackpeak walked towards the battle platform step by step. Even before he stepped on the platform, a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. An abyss of destruction manifested, as terrifying abyssal flames that could devour everything appeared. The black-colored light radiating from it caused people to feel a deep sense of dread. Different cultivation levels suppress each other. Dong Xingting spoke. An instant later, an immortal king waved his hand. In an instant, a terrifying diagram manifested in the airspace above Gu Zhantian. This diagram directly enveloped the entire area, and in an instant, Blackpeak and Qin Wentian both felt a sense of suppression. Their cultivation bases were now the same level. Blackpeak's constellation manifested as his aura grew stronger and stronger. His palms stretched out, exuding a terrifying black-colored destructive energy, causing the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Blackpeak followed the Deep Flame Immortal King to temper himself, cultivating in the outside world, and receiving the guidance of the Deep Flame Immortal King. His attacks would surely be extremely terrifying. As for this Qin Wentian, he's also an existence that no one can see through and has shocking potential. Before this, Qin Wentian once humiliated Blackpeak, saying that he spared Blackpeak's life. Let's see if Black Peak can wash away that humiliation with this battle. The spectators only saw that the two of them didn't move, but the auras they exuded grew more and more ferocious, growing stronger and stronger. Strands of abyssal black mist circulated around Black Peak. The destructive energy contained in his palms grew stronger and stronger, as though his constellation wanted to devour the heavens and earth into the abyss. Those arrogant words you said earlier, if you can't prove them with your actions, how are you going to continue living in this world? Black Peak walked forth step by step. Every single step he took gave off a feeling of extreme danger. At this moment, Qin Wentian's aura also gushed forth ferociously. The violet gold suppression constellation shone resplendently as a silhouette of light floated behind him, exuding a heaven-suppressing might. With a thunderous boom, his entire body radiated a dazzling light as he unleashed his battle art. His entire body was shrouded in a resplendent light, resembling a god of war. Boom! There seemed to be a roaring wave coming out of his body, buzzing. The halo on Qin Wentian's body became even more dazzling. He released the second battle art, and the power of his body increased by several times. What secret art is this? It seems like Gusu Tianqi has also cultivated this energy before. Eastern Sage Cliff. Those experts from the Dongshangshan Gate all understood when they saw the scene. They naturally knew what the battle art Qin Wentian unleashed signified. This was an immortal art left behind by an extremely powerful immortal king of the Dongshangshan Gate. Only those with extremely high comprehension abilities would be able to comprehend it. In such a short period of time, he was actually able to comprehend two battle arts at the same level as Gusu Tianqi. Someone spoke in a low voice. This battle art is different from the other places in the Eastern Sage Cliff. It purely relies on one's comprehension ability. Many people have immersed themselves in it for many years, yet they still couldn't even see the surface of it. This has nothing to do with the amount of time they spent in it. For those with inferior comprehension abilities, they wouldn't be able to comprehend anything at all. That's right, this Qin Wentian has comprehended the second battle art. His comprehension ability is extremely high. Just as they were conversing, an even more resplendent light radiated from Qin Wentian. He seemed to have transformed into a true god of war. His entire body seemed to have undergone a transformation. Battle light enveloped him, as though he was clad in battle armor, incomparably resplendent and resplendent. 3 levels. The eyes of several immortal kings froze as they stared at Qin Wentian, who was on the battle platform. Before this, Qin Wentian had also used battle arts, but this was the first time he unleashed the 3rd level. In the short period of time he spent cultivating in the Eastern Sage Cliff, Qin Wentian had actually accomplished something many of his disciples would never be able to do. His comprehension ability is truly outstanding. Someone sighed. At this moment, Black Peak's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. His aura grew stronger step by step as his destructive might towered up into the sky. His entire body radiated an aura of extreme danger. However, the aura radiating from Qin Wentian didn't grow stronger step by step. Instead, it grew stronger by several times, causing Black Peak to feel a sense of trepidation in his heart. A blood-colored light circulated around Qin Wentian's body. His eyes gleamed with a crimson light, exuding an incomparably demonic aura. With just a single glance, his dream world constellation manifested. Black Peak only felt himself entering Qin Wentian's dream world as his countenance turned heavy. His aura, which was still growing stronger, was unceasingly suppressed by Qin Wentian's aura. At the same cultivation level, what do you have to fight against me? Qin Wentian was incomparably cold and arrogant. On the surface of his body, runic light flowed. His body, which was originally already incomparably resplendent, was unceasingly growing brighter and brighter, causing Black Peak to feel a sense of unease. How many trump cards did this man before him have? How strong could he be? Rumble. Qin Wentian's body expanded to 100 meters in size as he stared down at Black Peak. At this moment, Black Peak seemed so tiny in front of him, as though he couldn't even be mentioned. What did Black Peak have to fight against Qin Wentian? In terms of astral souls, one could say that Qin Wentian wouldn't be at a disadvantage when facing against anyone. His constellation was strong and not weak. His bloodline was stronger than Black Peak's, the 3-level battle art, the fiend god body refinement art, his body covered in divine inscriptions. All of these trump cards combined together caused Qin Wentian to transform into a demonic god. Just by standing there, he gave off an incomparably terrifying pressure. Blackpeak inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian. His heart was constantly changing. As Qin Wentian's aura grew stronger, his self-confidence grew weaker and weaker. At this moment, he no longer had the conviction to press onwards. In addition to the fact that he was already defeated by Qin Wentian at the eastern Sage Cliff Range, there was already a shadow in his heart. His conviction was slowly being nibbled away, destroyed. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step out as a thunderous bell chime rang out, causing Blackpeak's heart to pound as well. "What do you have to fight against me?" Qin Wentian spoke again, his voice akin to thunder from a clear sky, blasting into Blackpeak's eardrums. In the center of his brows, an incomparably demonic light flashed as a third eye appeared. In just an instant, a blood-colored bolt of lightning directly shot into Blackpeak's sea of consciousness. Instantly, Blackpeak felt a supreme pressure from Qin Wentian attacking his will. Suppression. Qin Wentian's palm imprint blasted downwards. Terrifying runic light circulated within the palm imprint, containing a fearsome suppression law energy, causing the entire space to tremble. This energy was able to suppress the heavens and earth. The fiend god heavenly suppression art was able to kill immortals and devils. Thunderous roars of rage rang out. Blackpeak's will struggled, but when he broke free from Qin Wentian's will attack, he only saw that terrifying palm imprint slamming down with unstoppable force. Blackpeak's countenance was pale white. At this moment, he actually felt as though he couldn't defend against this attack. It was as though the supreme conviction he had gathered earlier had been completely shattered at this instant. Blackpeak roared in rage as a destructive might surged upwards, blasting towards the void. However, under the attack of the gigantic palm imprint that seemed capable of suppressing everything, it was directly reduced into nothingness. That palm imprint was too fast, so fast that it transformed into divine might, like a divinity wanting to destroy Blackpeak. Blackpeak's lips curled up, he was about to concede. Boom! An earth-shattering bell chime rang out. The timing was incomparably accurate. It was as though Blackpeak's voice rang out at the same time. The terrifying bell chime directly drowned out Blackpeak's voice, as though Blackpeak didn't even speak at all. Abruptly, an expression of despair flashed on his face. A thunderous boom rang out as the earth trembled violently. The entire ancient Zhantian was trembling as the bell chimes continued reverberating through the air. It was like the echo of the earlier bell chimes, reverberating through the air. That echo was like the death knell of death. The gigantic palm imprint completely engulfed Blackpeak. The eyes of everyone widened. They didn't dare to believe this scene before their eyes. Blackpeak, the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, was actually killed by Qin Wentian with a single strike? The fiend god heavenly suppression art was able to suppress and kill immortals and devils. In addition, Qin Wentian used the 3 levels of the fiend god heavenly suppression art, as well as many other trump cards. He wanted Blackpeak to die directly on the ancient Zhantian platform, not giving him any chance at all. This battle was for the sake of taking Blackpeak's life. Staring at that incomparably gigantic frame, even immortal kings felt a sense of fear in their hearts. Blackpeak was the personal disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, yet he was killed by this young man with a single strike. Qin Wentian truly dared to kill him. Also, given their judgment, how could they not have discovered that earlier Blackpeak was shouting for him to concede? However, Qin Wentian was bent on taking his life, hence he used the bell chime to drown out Blackpeak's pleas for help. Qin Wentian had steeled his heart. He wanted to kill his opponent no matter what. And he did it. With just a single strike, he took Blackpeak's life, not even giving him the slightest chance of survival. This was simply a ruthless slap to the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King in front of everyone. In fact, he even stepped on the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King, using the most direct and brutal method to trample and humiliate him. Didn't the Deep Flame Immortal King look down on Qin Wentian? Didn't he say that it was impossible for Qin Wentian to enter the top 3? In that case, what about the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King? Qin Wentian, in front of everyone on the battle platform, I used a single strike to kill your disciple. The deep flame immortal king truly felt pain from being trampled on. Earlier when he first saw Qin Wentian, he didn't care about Qin Wentian at all. But now he was completely enraged. His anger wasn't because of Blackpeak's death. In truth, Blackpeak was killed by Qin Wentian in the most direct and violent manner, causing him to feel hatred for his disciple Blackpeak. That useless fellow caused him, as his master, to lose all face. His countenance turned black. This was especially so when Qin Wentian stood on the battle platform and stared at him from afar. Qin Wentian's attitude was like a victor, mocking him, an immortal king of a generation. The personal disciple of senior deep flame immortal king seems to be a little weak. Qin Wentian didn't bother about the expression on the deep flame immortal king's face as he spoke. It was as though he was trampling on the deep flame immortal king's face, and at the same time, stomping on it. This face was simply too painful. Chapter 867. The deep flame immortal king stared at Qin Wentian, his eyes cold as he spoke. Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring straight at the deep flame immortal king. It's a small matter for you to provoke this seat. However, you actually dared to break the rules, killing Blackpeak after he admitted defeat, disregarding the rules of the Dongshengshan Gate, disregarding the existence of immortal kings. How should this crime be dealt with? The deep flame immortal king coldly spoke. Did he admit defeat? I didn't hear it. If senior deep flame immortal king wants to take revenge publicly, I have nothing to say. Who asked you to be a supreme immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate? As for me, I'm merely a celestial phenomenon ascendant who came here to participate in the immortal banquet. Qin Wentian directly retorted. He naturally didn't hear it. He was afraid that Blackpeak would admit defeat, hence he used his sound waves to drown out Qin Wentian's voice. Not only did he not hear it, the others didn't hear it as well. I didn't hear it as well. Junmingchen spoke. Before this, the deep flame immortal king walked down and told my senior brother that some things are already destined and will never change. Could it be that no matter how senior brother performs, he would definitely be eliminated? If this is the case, it's fine even if we don't enter the Dongshengshan Gate. The three of us will naturally return to the mountain to cultivate. You guys. The deep flame immortal king stared at these people as his countenance turned cold. Everyone had personally witnessed the grudge between him and Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian even killed his disciple in front of him, challenging his prestige and humiliating him. Now that he spoke out to convict Qin Wentian, it was clear that he was using his position to avenge his personal grudges. Deep flame immortal king, forget it. At this moment, Dongxing Ting spoke. The deep flame immortal king stared at Dongxing Ting only to see the gleaming light in his eyes. He had no way to tell what Dongxing Ting was thinking. The deep flame immortal king understood that Dongxing Ting, the son of the immortal emperor, would naturally handle this matter well. Snorting coldly, the deep flame immortal king coldly swept his gaze over and didn't say anything more. Qin Wentian returned to his seat. Right now, out of the 20 chosen, only 19 remained. 8 of them had already fought, leaving 12 who had yet to fight. Ziqingxian of the Cloud Prefecture, it's your turn. Dongxing Ting's gaze was very calm. He glanced at Ziqingxian but his heart was filled with coldness. Seems like Qin Wentian must have had a miraculous encounter in the immortal realms, and became the disciple of a powerful master. This was why he was able to grow to such a level. Princess Liuli was right next to him. Naturally, he would not deliberately act against Qin Wentian. Otherwise, if Princess Qing'er knew about this, she would be able to guess a lot of things. Ziqingshuan's silhouette walked up the platform. Qin Wentian and Jun Mingchen both had a high chance of passing. She definitely had to obtain a victory as well. There was not a single weakling among the experts in front of her. The person she was most confident in defeating was naturally Su Feng, who was at the same cultivation level as her. After all, they had fought before. To her, this battle was very simple. I challenge Su Feng. Ziqingxian turned her gaze onto Su Feng, her words causing Su Feng's expression to turn heavy. It was impossible for stellar martial cultivators to change too much in such a short period of time. The strong would be strong, the weak would be weak. Su Feng knew that even if they fought again, he would still lose to Zi Qingxian. I concede. Su Feng didn't step onto the platform. He still wanted to leave his hope to himself. He would go all out and try his best to break through the top 10. It was simply too difficult to enter the top 10. Right now there were no weaklings at all. Gu Zhantian, fight me. At this moment, Dong Xingting called out. Gu Zhantian was finally his turn. Before this, he had already lost a round. If he lost again, he would be directly eliminated. Would it be a civil war in the Cloud Prefecture? The gazes of the spectators turned to Gu Zhantian. Before this, Jun Mengchen's words provoked and humiliated Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian promised that he would fight a life-and-death battle against Jun Mengchen. But after that, Jun Mengchen's performance was incomparably domineering, defeating Xia Jiufeng. Would Gu Zhantian still keep his promise and challenge Jun Mengchen? This battle, to Gu Zhantian, was extremely difficult to choose. He had already lost once. He couldn't afford to lose again. If he lost again, his name would no longer be in the top 10. On the platform, Gu Zhantian stood there as his eyes flickered with uncertainty. It was as though he couldn't make up his mind. Evidently, Gu Zhantian was hesitating. His conviction, his self-confidence, was no longer as strong as before. He didn't have the certainty of victory. Regardless of Jun Mengchen or Qin Wentian, he didn't have the confidence to win. If not, he wouldn't hesitate to directly challenge one of them. Qin Wentian and Jun Mengchen stared at Gu Zhantian as an intense battle intent flickered in their eyes. In fact, Jun Mengchen directly lifted his pinky finger, pointing it downwards, as though he was looking down on Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian clenched his fists tightly as his battle intent towered up into the sky. He was the #1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture. How could he lose his will to battle? He, Gu Zhantian, even if he was defeated, he wouldn't cower from battle. This battle was for the sake of victory, and also for the sake of dignity. In his eyes, a sharp gleam of light erupted forth. Gu Zhantian stared at the Cloud Prefecture's camp and pointed his finger at Qin Wentian instead of Jun Mengchen. Before this, you have always wanted to fight against me. Let me grant you your wish. Qin Wentian, scram the hell out. Gu Zhantian roared in rage, challenging Qin Wentian to a battle. Jun Mengchen's eyes flickered with a cold smile as he stared at Qin Wentian beside him. Gu Zhantian was destined to be defeated. The #1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture wouldn't even be able to enter the top 10. Qin Wentian stood up and walked towards the platform once more. He was the victor earlier, hence the people behind him could still challenge him. A life-and-death battle. How about it? Qin Wentian spoke. Earlier when Jun Mengchen was poisoned, this Gu Zhantian didn't forget to curse him. His killing intent towards Gu Zhantian was extremely strong, not any weaker compared to Black Peak's. A bright light flashed in the air, suppressing the cultivation bases of both of them. Gu Zhantian's countenance flickered as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. However, he didn't reply. Although he had the confidence to challenge Qin Wentian, he didn't have the courage to do so in a life-and-death battle. Especially when Qin Wentian just killed the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Black Peak. His constellation, astral souls and chaotic aura gushed forth in an instant. Gu Zhantian didn't reply to Qin Wentian's words, he could only fight. Qin Wentian unleashed his battle art as rumbling sounds rang out from his body. 3 layers of battle arts were unleashed consecutively as a blood-colored light flashed. Runic inscriptions flowed on his body, as though he was clad in a blood-colored fiend god battle armor, unexcelled in the world. Back then when Gu Zhantian fought against senior brother Qin, he was 3 levels higher than him, yet he was still so arrogant. How ridiculous. If they were at the same level, senior brother Qin would be able to easily destroy him. Jun Mengchen impolitely spoke. His gaze swept through the geniuses and major powers of the Cloud Prefecture. All of them had a prejudice against his senior brother Qin Wentian. But the rise of his senior brother Qin Wentian wasn't something anyone could obstruct. Gu Zhantian manifested 3 heads and 6 arms, exuding an incomparably chaotic aura as he blasted out towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's suppression constellation radiated boundless violet gold light, shattering the space as rumbling sounds rang out. Gu Zhantian blasted out a flood dragon and a Kirin, causing the heavens and earth to tremble violently. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as numerous phantoms appeared at the same time. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wentian. These phantoms grabbed out with their palms, as though they could pluck the stars from the constellation, shattering all energy. Gu Zhantian roared. His entire body was in a state of frenzy, as though a flood dragon was protecting him. Every strike he unleashed caused numerous demonic phantoms to appear, frenziedly clashing against Qin Wentian's attacks. Only to see at this moment, Qin Wentian once again manifested a million phantoms. This time around, the phantoms actually left behind a trail of afterimages as they spread out in all directions, wanting to engulf Gu Zhantian within. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wentian clones within. How terrifying was the attack power of this innate technique! Can he withstand the exhaustion of such an innate technique? The immortal king stared at Qin Wentian. For such an innate technique, it was impossible for him to condense so many phantoms. It should be that Qin Wentian created millions of phantoms in a short instant, and each of the phantoms could unleash the same attack as the true body. However, the exhaustion of energy was already extremely shocking. Staring at the millions of phantoms that appeared in that short instant, Gu Zhantian's heart trembled. His conviction to battle was being nibbled away as he recalled the death of Black Peak. Each of the phantoms of Qin Wentian was shining with a boundless battle halo. It was simply too terrifying. Just a single one of them was already so hard to deal with. Even the countless eyes of Qin Wentian gave off a stifling pressure. I concede. Gu Zhantian roared. It was as though he had exhausted all his energy. Qin Wentian, who was preparing to attack, suddenly started. After that, the phantoms all vanished as though they had fused back into one. The battle light radiating from Qin Wentian was still as bright as ever. He stared at Gu Zhantian and didn't say anything. He merely lifted his foot and walked towards the direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp. But to Gu Zhantian, wasn't this a form of humiliation? He and Qin Wentian had always been anticipating this battle. But now that the battle had arrived, it ended in such a manner. He, Gu Zhantian, was eliminated. The first in the Cloud State stopped at the top 20. Gu Zhantian is eliminated. He's not allowed to challenge him again. Dong Xingting calmly spoke. The hearts of many couldn't calm down. The number one genius of the Cloud Prefecture was actually eliminated in such a manner? As for that 27th ranked young man from the Cloud Prefecture, he killed Black Peak in the first battle and eliminated Gu Zhantian in the second battle. Who was the true number one heaven's favorite in Yinzhou? No matter what, Gu Zhantian wouldn't have the qualifications. After this battle, Qin Wentian could already lock in the top 10. The top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen, will fight. Dong Xingting spoke. Yi Qianchen walked up the battle platform. Qian Province's number one challenged Imo Province's number one prodigy, Yan Zimo. In the end, Yi Qianchen was the victor. Next, the number one of Li Prefecture, Song Ao, challenged the number one of Rock Prefecture, Bashan. In the end, Song Ao Li won. Blazing Sun Province's number one, Dugashishan, challenged Yu Province's number one, Guhong. In the end, Dugashishan was the victor. The more famous geniuses of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were using their strength to defend their honor. After all, in many of the 13 prefectures, only a single genius was still standing on the battle platform. Chapter 868. After Dugashishan's battle ended, it was now Mo Wen's turn. The number one genius of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, Mo Wen, had already lost a battle before. However, her opponent was Gusu Tianqi. Her defeat was within reason. No one would dare to say they wouldn't lose when facing Gusu Tianqi. At that time, Mo Wen had already displayed an extremely tyrannical strength. Also, she automatically gave up at the end. Nobody had seen how strong her combat prowess was. Let's hope she can win. Jun Mengchen spoke in a low voice when he saw Mo Wen stepping up. This Snow-White maiden was also from the Heavenly Talisman realm, causing him to feel a sense of closeness to her. He naturally hoped that Mo Wen would win. If Mo Wen was defeated, she would be eliminated. And now, the number of people Mo Wen could challenge was already very few. For those who were defeated, she couldn't challenge them. For those who won, each and every one of them was extremely terrifying. Western Desert Prefecture, Sorrowless. Emowen stated the opponent she wanted to challenge. Sorrowless was the third ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, and he hadn't fought before this. If she challenged him, her chances of winning would be higher. Emowen also wanted to play it safe. Sorrowless was none other than the monk Qin Wentian met before at the Eastern Sage Cliff. His robes were tattered as he walked up the platform. His bronze-colored skin gave off a sense of immense strength, masculine and ferocious. His gaze was extremely terrifying, giving off a sense of supremacy. He chanted the name of Buddha, and golden light shone between heaven and earth. A terrible golden ancient Buddha appeared in the void. An endless golden light shrouded Wu Bei's body. He slapped his palm, and there seemed to be a terrible golden Buddha palm print attacking. Emowen released her Frost Monarch chi as the shadow of the Frost Monarch appeared in the air. Wielding an ice spear, she froze the entire space. With a wave of her hand, a screen of frost appeared as the golden palm imprint blasted over. At this moment, a terrifying frost chi gushed forth, unceasingly corroding this entire space, causing the entire space to be covered in frost. Wu Bei's constellation seemed as though it was about to be frozen. The terrifying frost chi contained an extreme coldness. Wu Bei's expression did not change. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the air. In an instant, boundless runic light fluttered like the Dharma. Boundless runic light flashed in the sky. Above the sky, figures of ascetic Buddhas appeared. They sat cross-legged, closed their eyes and chanted sutras. Terrifying Buddha light appeared between heaven and earth, enveloping the sky. It actually turned into a golden body that enveloped Wu Bei. If one looked from afar, one could vaguely see the shadow of an incomparably huge golden ancient Buddha. The power of the Frost Monarch's ice encroached over, sealing the entire golden light screen in ice. However, the frigid air couldn't penetrate through. This defense could be said to be terrifying. In this year's Immortal Banquet, only the Western Desert Prefecture can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Cloud Prefecture. The Cloud Prefecture has 3 senior and junior brothers, while the Western Desert Prefecture has 3 people from different powers. The hearts of the spectators mused. The two of them engaged in a frenzied battle. Emowen transformed into a snow goddess. Her long hair transformed into ice crystals, flawless and flawless. She was like a spirit of snow, unceasingly attacking. Wu Bei unceasingly spat out Buddhic light. That Buddhas in the air could even unleash attacks. Numerous ancient bells materialized in the air. This was actually the same as the innate technique Qin Wentian had used before. It was something he cultivated in the Eastern Sage Cliff. This Wu Bei's defense is truly strong. His attacks are powerful as well. The spectators felt more and more shocked as they watched on. However, Emowen's strength was also gradually erupting forth as her body grew colder and colder. At the end of the battle, she wielded an ice spear and transformed into a true goddess. With a single strike, the heavens and earth froze. The boundless golden light screen also froze before shattering. Nobody could block it. Emowen's strength caused the spectators to be stunned. When she fought against Gusu Tianqi, she didn't even use her full strength before she admitted defeat. Now she already couldn't afford to lose and fought with all her might. Her Frost Monarch physique erupted forth and finally defeated Wu Bei, obtaining victory. Next, it should have been Blackpeak's turn to fight. However, Blackpeak had already been killed by Qin Wentian, so he naturally didn't have to fight. And so it was Xia Jiufeng's turn. Xia Jiufeng, who had lost to Jun Mingchen, had already lost a battle, so he had the initiative. It was also his turn to choose his opponent. He was the same as Emowen. He could not afford to lose and had to fight for a victory with all his might. However, he could not challenge those who had lost. He could only challenge the victors and those who had not fought before. For the previous victors, any one of them had already displayed their overwhelming combat prowess. It would be extremely difficult to fight against them. Xia Jiufeng stood on the platform and hesitated. He then turned his gaze to those who hadn't participated yet. It seemed like there were only 3 people left who had yet to participate in the battle. The second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta, the disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king, Hua Taishu, the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King Ruthless. To Xia Jiufeng, this was clearly an extremely difficult choice. At this point, all of his opponents were extremely terrifying. Now he had to defeat one of them in order to avoid the fate of being eliminated. I challenge Qin Ta of the Western Desert Prefecture. Xia Jiufeng spoke. In the end he locked onto the three who hadn't fought before. Hua Taishu was extremely famous. Ruthless was the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. That Devil King was simply too terrifying. It was still better to choose Qin Ta from the Western Desert Prefecture, as he would have a higher chance of winning. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, and the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta. They stood on the platform, facing each other. Was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, or the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture? Before this, the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture had already been defeated by the second ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mengchen. Xia Jiufeng could no longer afford to lose. The barbarian king's shadow flashed in the sky as the space changed. A constellation appeared, manifesting a tyrannical demonic beast that was incomparably violent. The moment Xia Jiufeng appeared, it was as though he was going to use his strongest combat prowess. Qin Ta's physique was gigantic, akin to a giant. He was a terrifying heaven chosen of the Western Desert Prefecture, the Heavenly God race. People from the Heavenly God race were born with boundless divine strength. They were like heavenly gods, able to move mountains and overturn seas. Their offense and defense were once the strongest in the entire Western Desert Prefecture. Upon seeing Xia Jiufeng going berserk, Qin Ta roared in rage. His entire body shimmered with the light of a heavenly god as cracking sounds rang out from his body. His body expanded to a height of 10 meters, exuding a majestic aura. Behind him, a gigantic silhouette of 1,000 meters tall appeared, exuding boundless might. The people of the heavenly god race are born with the ability to sense unique constellations. These constellations are named heavenly deity constellations by them, and they are able to condense their heavenly deity astral souls. After that, the constellations they comprehend are all based on the heavenly deity constellations. This is the innate advantage those powerful races with ancient inheritances have. An immortal king spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian to feel shock in his heart. The immortal realms were many times more fascinating compared to particle worlds. For some ancient races, their talent wasn't only shown in their bloodlines, they were also born with an innate sensitivity to certain constellations. This was definitely an innate advantage. Such races were simply too terrifying. Their inheritances wouldn't decline from generation to generation. Once a supreme character appeared, they would be able to lead this race to new heights. I'm afraid Xia Jiufeng is going to be in danger in this battle. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. This Qin Ta's strength was already extremely powerful, at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, very close to becoming an immortal. Although there was still a huge barrier separating them, his cultivation base was higher, and his comprehension of the martial path was also deeper than Xia Jiufeng's. Even if his cultivation base was suppressed, he would still have an advantage in this aspect. In addition to the fact that he was from the heavenly god race, the possibility of Xia Jiufeng being defeated was simply too great. Xia Jiufeng naturally could also sense Qin Ta's strength. His countenance turned solemn as he roared in rage, causing the space around him to tremble as tens of thousands of savage beasts soared through the air, wanting to destroy everything. Qin Ta's countenance was calm. He stomped on the ground and blasted out with both his palms, penetrating through the void. The spectators only saw a pair of heavenly deities' fists sweeping across the heavens and earth, causing all the savage beasts in the surroundings to explode. Powerful, this level of attack power. He must be a supremely terrifying existence. Qin Ta, if he didn't suppress his cultivation base, he would be at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon with an extremely deep comprehension. The crowd sighed in admiration. All of them felt that Xia Jiufeng would be defeated again in this battle. Reality was just like what they predicted. Although Xia Jiufeng did his best and unleashed incomparably violent attacks, he was still defeated in the end. He was directly blasted off the platform by Qin Ta, flying through the air as he was heavily injured. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture was eliminated, unable to enter the top 20. After this battle ended, Black Peak died, Gu Zhantian was eliminated, and Xia Jiufeng was eliminated. None of these three were weaklings. All of them were supremely powerful existences. However, all of them were eliminated. This was the combat at the later stages of the Immortal Banquet. It was extremely brutal. No matter how strong a genius was, they would still lose consecutively, just like Gu Zhantian and Xia Jiufeng. After Xia Jiufeng, it was time for Qin Ta to fight again. Earlier, he had just defeated Xia Jiufeng. There was no meaning for him to fight again. Next battle, Sorrowless. Dong Xingting spoke. Sorrowless' battle with Mo Wen belonged to the loser category. Next, it was his turn, and since he had the initiative, he could choose his opponent. Sorrowless was also under immense pressure. Right now, only Hua Taishu and Ruthless hadn't fought a single battle yet. Other than the two of them, he could only choose those who were the victors. Ruthless. Sorrowless stared at the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. He challenged Ruthless. Ruthless exuded a terrifying baleful aura, akin to a baleful god. When he walked up to Gu Zhantian, devil chi gushed forth from him, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. Immortals, devils, immortals, devils. However, devils were much rarer compared to immortals. The path of the devil Dao was extremely tough. One had to be extremely ruthless to themselves before they could cultivate it. For powerful devils, they could even achieve a state where they had no desires and only focused on pursuing the path of the devil. A monk against a devil cultivator. Is this a battle between Buddhas and devils? The spectators saw Buddhic light radiating from Sorrowless, while devil chi gushed forth from Ruthless. He wielded a long spear in his hands that was even longer compared to ordinary spears. It was formed from devil energy and shone with a terrifying blood-colored light. Ruthless stepped out, moving towards Sorrowless. Every step he took caused devil might to surge up into the sky. The devil spear in his hands seemed to be able to penetrate through everything, containing a heaven-shaking might. The disciple of the undefeatable Devil King, Ruthless, is extremely mysterious and rarely fights. It's all thanks to His Highness Dong Xingting that we can see him participating in this immortal banquet. An immortal king laughed as he stared at the battle platform. How strong would a disciple taught by the undefeatable Devil King be? Would he be able to slaughter his way out in this bloody path? Chapter 869. The baleful chi radiating from Ruthless was extremely heavy. Devil chi churned wildly, as though he was clad in a devil armor. He was like a devil king, extremely terrifying. His body trembled as the platform rumbled. The long spear in his hand directly pierced out like a black bolt of lightning. Although there was still some distance between him and Sorrowless, the crowd could see that his black devil spear directly penetrated through the void, bringing with it a fearsome might as it blasted towards Sorrowless. There was no violent turbulence. It was like there was only this spear in this world, and all the devil energy was concentrated within it. Wu Bei blasted out a huge golden palm print. It was as fast as lightning and instantly collided with the spear. There was a loud explosion. The golden palm print was instantly shattered when the spear touched it. The spear continued to pierce through and pierce Wu Bei's body. The attacks of devil cultivators are naturally stronger, but their cultivation is also more difficult. Those who cultivate the devil path might fall into the devil path at any moment, consigning them to eternal damnation, becoming a tool of slaughter, losing their rationality and even exploding themselves to death. The number of devil cultivators is extremely few. Everyone stared at the heavy expression on Sorrowless' face. With a roar of rage, numerous Buddhas appeared, blasting out palm imprints at the same time, shattering the devil spear. However, a towering devilish light enveloped Ruthless. His body expanded explosively as he transformed into a devil. Astral light flashed as an ancient devil manifested in the air. Ruthless brandished a heaven-shaking long spear in his hand as millions of long spears whistled through the air in rage. Ruthless stepped out, exuding boundless might. His countenance was cold as he silently stabbed out with his spear. However, at the instant this spear pierced out, boundless devil light converged together, transforming into a towering devil spear. At the same time, It was as though there were millions of devil spears exploding towards Sorrowless at the same time. Sorrowless frenziedly chanted Buddhic chants as boundless light gathered around him. His golden Buddha body had an unparalleled defense, but Ruthless struck out 10 times in a row. The devil trampled on his golden body as the long spear shook the heavens, shattering the golden Buddha body. Violence. This is the unique characteristic of devil cultivators. They are most proficient in violent attacks, relentless until you are defeated. Someone praised. As expected of the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. How powerful. His Majesty Dongxing Ting must have his reasons for choosing Ruthless and Hua Taishu. The two of them are in the second level of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures. It's too dangerous. To the geniuses from the 13 prefectures, it's an extremely huge test. It's extremely difficult to break through the two of them. An immortal king laughed. Dongxing Ting's eyes gleamed brightly. The people he chose were all 5th-level ascendants, and their reputations were all extremely resounding within the immortal realms. In the end, Sorrowless was defeated again. The powerful Western Desert State Sadhu lost 2 rounds and was eliminated. It wasn't that he wasn't strong. It was just that the current Gu Zhantian no longer had any weaklings. His 2 opponents were both extremely terrifying. Yin Zimo of the Qian Prefecture, it's your turn. You still have one more chance. Dongxing Ting spoke when he saw the 2 of them walking down the platform. Yin Zimo had already lost once before. He had lost to Qian Province's number 1, Yi Qianchen, who was extremely famous. Hence, when it was his turn this time, he had the initiative. Before this, others couldn't challenge him. But now this was also his last chance. He could only challenge the victors and not the losers. Or perhaps, he could only challenge those who didn't have enough people after a single round. There was only one such person left, Hua Taishu. The pressure on Yin Zimo grew even greater. He truly didn't know who else he could challenge. Right now the victors were Gusa Tianqi, Feather King, Jun Mingchen, Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian, Yi Qianchen, Song Ao Dugashishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless and Mo1. 11 experts. He had to win against one of them. After all, not all 11 of them would be able to pass. Drawing a deep breath, Yin Zimo spoke. Zi Qingxian. Yin Zimo chose to challenge Zi Qingxian of the Cloud Prefecture. Zi Qingxian stepped onto the platform as a divine falcon glow radiated forth. At the instant the battle started, countless divine falcons soared through the air, whistling through the air in a frenzy. Zi Qingxian felt some anger in her heart. This Yin Zimo chose her out of over 10 participants? Did he think she was weak? Hence, she directly unleashed a powerful attack that engulfed Yin Zimo completely. In the end, Yin Zimo was defeated and was eliminated. After that, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, stepped up. Ba Shan was defeated by Tsang Ao earlier, and this was also his last chance. He had to win no matter what. He chose Qin Ta of the Heavenly God race. Regretfully, he had no way to defeat an expert from the Heavenly God race. His cultivation techniques were similar to Qin Ta's. Both his attacks and defenses were extremely powerful, akin to an ancient mountain. However, Qin Ta was like a heavenly god, like a divinity descending to the mortal world, suppressing and defeating him. After the top ranker of the Mo Prefecture, Yin Zimo, was eliminated, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, was eliminated as well. How cruel was this battle? After that, the top ranker of the Yu Prefecture, Gu Hongzi, stepped up. In the previous battle, he was defeated by the top ranker of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugu Shishan. For this battle, when Gu Hongzi swept his gaze over those who could challenge him, he actually no longer had the confidence to win. 2 of the top rankers of the Blazing Sun Prefecture were eliminated one after another. Gu Hongzi chose the top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen. Yi Qianchen was naturally unhappy. After he stepped onto the platform, sword chi gushed forth as his silhouette flickered. Terrifying sword techniques were unleashed, enveloping Gu Hongzi within the abyss of death. Gu Hongzi admitted defeat. The 3 top rankers of the Thunder Prefecture were all defeated and eliminated. Next, it was the top ranker of the Thunder Prefecture, Su Feng. At this moment, one could very well imagine the pressure on Su Feng. Although he had entered the top 20, He still felt some despair. But no matter what, he still had to fight. I choose Huataishu. Su Feng stood on the platform as he spoke. It seemed like he had no other choice. Before this, Zi Qingxian challenged him, and he admitted defeat. After that, the other victors were all exceedingly powerful. Only the mysterious Huataishu hadn't fought yet. He could only rely on Huataishu to break through. Huataishu. Qin Wentian and the others turned their gazes over, staring at the lanky silhouette walking down the platform. He was as handsome as ever, like an elegant young noble, untainted by even a speck of dust. It was just that the current Huataishu was even more extraordinary than before. His eyes were clear and deep, so deep that one couldn't even see the bottom of it. He who didn't exude any aura actually gave off an unfathomable feeling, unfathomable. Huataishu's body floated down onto the platform as though he was weightless. His eyes were calm as he stared at Su Feng. Such a feeling caused Su Feng to feel a sense of unease. Huataishu's aura was too faintly discernible, so faintly discernible that it felt surreal, so faintly discernible that it felt like an illusion. Boom! Su Feng instantly gushed forth with his strongest aura. Stepping out, his speed was like a bolt of lightning as a screen of light enveloped him. His silhouette directly vanished from sight as the terrifying 10,000 mammoths slashed down. However, in the next instant, Su Feng discovered that the surroundings were filled with Huataishu's shadows. He didn't know which one he should kill. Slash! Su Feng roared in rage. The 10,000 manifestations slashed down as Huataishu's shadows were destroyed one after another. However, very swiftly, Huataishu's silhouette appeared, calmly staring at him. His eyes were so clear, yet there was no way to see through him. Su Feng roared in rage, frenziedly attacking, killing endlessly. However, it was useless. The aura of all the shadows were the same, there were no flaws at all. He killed over 10,000 of them. Yet Huataishu still stood there, staring at him. Arg! Su Feng felt as though he was on the verge of collapse. Boundless spatial energy enveloped him as he sped about on the platform, moving at an astonishing speed. Chi. Huataishu's silhouettes exploded one after another. Who was the real one, and who was the illusory one? The spectators all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this. Their gazes all turned to the myriad incarnations immortal king, only to see a faint smile on her face, as though she was very satisfied with the shock of the spectators. Huataishu has truly obtained the true inheritance of the myriad incarnations immortal king. This illusionary technique is simply capable of causing one's soul to crumble. Just by standing there, Huataishu is already sufficient to cause Su Feng's soul to crumble. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The battle on the platform caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Huataishu simply stood there, yet Su Feng didn't attack him. Instead, he was frenziedly attacking the illusory space around him. Evidently, what they saw was different from what Su Feng saw. Su Feng had already fallen into an illusionary realm the moment Huataishu stepped onto the platform. His eyes are an illusionary realm. The spectators sighed. Being able to walk out from the world of reincarnation, his eyes alone are sufficient to suppress many geniuses. Su Feng frenziedly attacked. He unleashed his strongest attack, instantly destroying the countless illusionary silhouettes. However, he was destined to be defeated, because Huataishu just stood there, yet he didn't attack. Finally, Su Feng's soul crumbled. With a howl of rage, he automatically gave up. Only now did he see that everything returned to normal. Huataishu was still standing on the platform, not releasing any aura at all. His calm eyes quietly stared at Su Feng's silhouette. Su Feng groaned in misery as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His countenance turned pale as though he was on the verge of collapse. At this instant, he became incomparably dispirited. So this is the case. Su Feng walked down the platform in a desolate manner. In this immortal banquet, he was truly a failure, a complete and utter failure. What a pity, let's hope his state of heart won't be affected. The spectators stared at Su Feng. In this immortal banquet, Su Feng was truly pitiful. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, it was just that the opponents he chose were all extremely powerful. How could he not be affected? Let's hope that Su Feng would be able to endure this. In the future, his state of heart would surely be even more outstanding. An immortal king spoke in a low voice, unwilling to see a genius fall. Hua Taishi walked down the platform. Next, it should have been him and Ruthless' battle. But before this, there were people who challenged them and they were all the victors. Hence now, the 12 victors have already been determined. 8 geniuses were eliminated. These 12 were Gusi Tianqi, Feather King, Junmengchen, Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian, Yi Qianchen, Song Ao, Dugashishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless, Mo and Hua Taishu. All of them had victory records. Right now it was simply too difficult to choose 2 out of these 12. Every single one of them was an outstanding sky-prided son of heaven. Chapter 870. For the remaining 12 participants, how should they eliminate 2 of them? Among the 12 participants, 11 of them had yet to be defeated. Only one was an exception, Mo Wen. However, the reason for Mo Wen's defeat was because the one who challenged him was none other than Gusi Tianqi. If she was eliminated because of such a defeat, it would be extremely unfair. As for the others, who would dare to say that they wouldn't be defeated if they fought against Gusi Tianqi? What choice should they make next was simply too difficult. The gazes of everyone turned to Dong Xingting. At this moment, Dong Xingting's eyes flickered as he stared at the people in the surroundings. What do Princess Liuli and the other elders think? The simplest method is to let all 12 of them fight on the platform together, and suppress their cultivation bases to the same level. Let them decide for themselves who will be eliminated. Princess Liuli's beautiful eyes gleamed with a strange light as she spoke. Good idea. What do the elders think? Dong Xingting laughed. His Highness will decide. An immortal king spoke. Since Princess Liuli and His Highness agree, we naturally have no objections. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Dong Xingting smiled. The 12 geniuses shall all fight on the platform together. You guys can decide for yourselves who will be eliminated. However, there's one point. No groups of 2 or more people are allowed to gang up on a single person. Naturally, if you guys have the patience to quietly wait on the platform, we will accompany you guys. The reason why Dong Xingting forbade people from ganging up on a single person was because he wanted to prevent people from forming an alliance. If they all decided to eliminate Gusi Tianqi first, wouldn't this rule be too terrible? In addition, Qin Wentian and his 2 fellow disciples weren't eliminated at all. The 3 of them were all Empyreans, and if they ganged up on Gusi Tianqi, there was no way anyone would be able to contend against them. After all, this was a battle where cultivation bases were suppressed. As the sound of Dong Xingting's voice faded, the 12 geniuses all stood up and walked up the platform, standing in 12 different locations. Qin Wentian, Junmengchen and Zi Qingxian stood together. Although there was some distance between them, one could clearly see that their relationship was extraordinary. As for the other participants, they all stood alone. On the platform, the eyes of the 12 geniuses shone brightly as they stared at the remaining geniuses. It was as though they were contemplating who among the 12 of them should be eliminated. Gusi Tianqi closed his eyes in meditation, as though this battle had nothing to do with him. King Yu's eyes were filled with arrogance as he swept his gaze over everyone. You guys can decide. As he spoke, he closed his eyes, full of arrogance. Evil chi flowed around Ruthless' body. His eyes were frightening as he stood there like a statue. Hua Taishu, who was beside him, was the exact opposite. His slender silhouette exuded a calm aura, as though he didn't exude any aura at all. However, after the earlier battle, no one dared to underestimate this personal disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king. What a difficult choice. Junmengchen mumbled, his eyes sweeping across the crowd before he replied. Forget it, what does it have to do with me? After saying that, he couldn't be bothered to care anymore. He just sat on the ground as if it had nothing to do with him. Qin Wentian stood there quietly with his hands clasped behind his back. A breeze blew past and lifted his clothes. His expression was so indifferent. The 12 of them didn't dare to act recklessly. Dong Xingting and the other immortal kings weren't in a hurry either. Since these geniuses were so patient, they could wait patiently. When these people grew impatient, there would naturally be someone who would step out to challenge the others. Now let's see who has the best endurance. On the battle platform, silence reigned. During the immortal banquet, everyone was chatting happily. This was especially so for those immortal kings. They acted as though nothing had happened. At their level, let alone a day or two, even a year or 2 years would pass by in the blink of an eye. Sometimes, when they were in closed-door seclusion, they would spend hundreds or even thousands of years. How strong their patience was, it wasn't something a little fellow at the celestial phenomenon realm could imagine. On the contrary, for an immortal banquet like the Dongshengshan Gate, it was extremely rare for characters at the same level to gather together. This would only happen once every 100 years. To them, this was a rare opportunity to rest and chat. It was an extremely relaxing thing. Myriad incarnations. Let's see how far this disciple of yours can go. If he can enter the top 3, would you be willing to let him enter the tutelage of His Majesty? The undying immortal king joked with the myriad incarnations' immortal king. Of course not. The myriad incarnations' immortal king smiled. You should know that I don't accept many disciples. His Majesty has students from all over the immortal realms, and experts are as common as the clouds. He wouldn't lack a disciple of mine, right? That's the truth. This disciple of yours seems extraordinary. He would definitely become someone great in the future. The undying immortal king laughed. The myriad incarnations' immortal king didn't mind. This old man would always praise everyone. Who knows which words he said were true and which were false? Princess, which 2 of the 12 do you think will be eliminated? Dongsheng Ting, who was at the host's seat, was chatting with Princess Lioli. This was a rare opportunity. He naturally wanted to improve his relationship with Princess Lioli and chat with her from time to time. He didn't want Princess Lioli to feel that she was being neglected here. Qin Wentian, Jun Mingchen, Dugushishan, Song Ao, and Qin Ta. From their auras and innate techniques, the personalities of these few should be more explosive. However, this Qin Wentian is also reserved. He wouldn't act recklessly. As for the other 4, they might be the first to lose their patience. However, this Jun Mingchen seems to be more obedient to his senior brother Qin Wentian. Since his senior brothers and sisters are different, it's possible that he wouldn't act. In that case, the ones most likely to act would be Dugushishan, Song Ao, and Qin Ta. Princess Lioli spoke. Oh, I know Princess has the ability to read people, but the attacks of Feather King and Ruthless are also extremely violent. Even Gusu Tianqi is the same. Why doesn't Princess guess that they would act? Dongsheng Ting curiously asked. The experts of the Winged Devil race are extremely patient. It's impossible for Feather King to act. Ruthless is a devil cultivator and his personality is unimaginably tough. As for Gusu Tianqi, there's no need for him to act. Nobody would look for him. Princess Lioli continued. As for Dugushishan, Song Ao, and Qin Ta, the moment they act, the ones most likely to be eliminated would be none other than them. Is that so? The 3 of them are all extremely powerful. Dongsheng Ting smiled. Let's wait and see. The atmosphere on the battle platform was still as quiet as ever. The patience of everyone was exceptionally good. The immortal banquet continued. The sounds of laughter and chatting could be heard. Those experts who were already eliminated were all quietly staring at the battle platform. They too wanted to know. Who would be able to become one of the top 10? Who would be able to become one of the top 3 rankers? It seemed that any one of them had a chance. They truly had no way to pick out the weakest. Being able to reach this step, those who had experienced true trials and tribulations had all been through. After a long time, Jun Mingchen was indeed feeling somewhat restless. His eyes opened a few times, but just like what Princess Lioli had predicted, Jun Mingchen also retracted his impatience when he saw how quiet Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian were. It was as though the only people here who could control him were only Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian. If you want to move, just move. Why must you make things difficult for yourself? Finally, someone spoke. The person who spoke was none other than Song Ao. He stared at Jun Mingchen as he spoke. Jun Mingchen's eyes flickered. He stared at Song Ao and replied, "What does this have to do with you?" Song Ao's countenance gleamed with sharpness as a cold light flickered in his eyes. He spoke in arrogance. "Among the 3 of you, it's time for one of you to scram the hell out. It's starting." The countenances of the spectators were all startled. Dong Xingting glanced at Princess Lioli, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he felt a little shocked in his heart. Just like what Princess has said, Princess' eyes are as sharp as torches. I'm impressed. Dong Xingting praised. Jun Mingchen stood up. His personality was originally very impulsive, and he was doing his best to control himself. How could he withstand Song Ao's words? When he stepped out, a king armor materialized around him as though a supreme king had appeared. Every step he took was like a sovereign descending from the heavens. In that case, I will make you scram. Jun Mingchen arrogantly spoke. Song Ao also stepped out. His aura was incomparably tyrannical as he exuded boundless strength. In my opinion, among the three of you, there should be more than one of you who should scram. Song Ao coldly spoke. The king aura exuding from Jun Mingchen grew more and more terrifying. A king's silhouette appeared behind him as boundless energy congregated within him, radiating a blinding light. I will make you scram with a single strike. Jun Mingchen was incomparably arrogant. The two of them walked towards each other as terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out as a violent hurricane manifested. Arrogant. Song Ao roared in rage as a surge of extreme energy gushed forth from him. Scram! Jun Mingchen roared in rage. The king's shadow behind him radiated boundless light as a supreme might bore down on Jun Mingchen. With a single strike, the heavens and earth trembled as the void trembled. Die! Song Ao also roared. He punched out, wanting to lacerate everything, causing the heavens and earth to crumble apart. A beam of golden light tore through everything. It was actually able to break apart Jun Mingchen's attack. Their fists collided against each other. Song Ao's countenance was incomparably arrogant. This punch contained his ultimate strength, causing golden cracks to appear in the air. This was a power that could tear apart all attacks. However, when Jun Mingchen's fist blasted over, Song Ao felt an ancient might pressing down on him. That fist seemed to contain the power of kings, capable of shattering the heavens and earth. When he stared at Jun Mingchen, it was as though he was looking at a supreme king peering down at the heavens and earth. Boom! The attacks of the two of them collided as a resplendent halo of light radiated outwards in all directions, wanting to shatter the void. The experts around Gu Zhantian all gathered their attacks to defend against the aftershocks of the halo. The might of the halo seemed to be able to tear the bodies of people apart. After which, the crowd only saw Song Ao's body being flung through the air. With a thunderous boom, his body slammed into the ground. One of his arms was completely destroyed as he screamed in agony. Terror could be seen in his eyes, as well as intense regret. Why did he choose to challenge Jun Mingchen? Why did he choose to fight Jun Mingchen? There was no one else in the top 10. Another punch. The hearts of the crowd trembled, incomparably shocked. This frivolous and unruly young man was so terrifying. Chapter 871. At this instant, the handsome image of Jun Mingchen grew even more majestic. That was Song Ao, the #1 genius of the Li Prefecture. With a single strike, his arm was severed and he rolled down the platform. The king armor on Jun Mingchen vanished. He stared ahead at Song Ao as he spoke. You can't even withstand a single strike. Are you even qualified to challenge me? After speaking, he returned to his original location and quietly sat down. It was as though defeating Song Ao wasn't something worthy of pride at all. Only the top 11 are left. There's still one more to go before the top 10 are determined. There shouldn't be anyone who dares to challenge Jun Mingchen and the other two. The hearts of the spectators mused. During the banquet, Dong Xingting cast a deep glance at Princess Lioli beside him. This Princess Lioli truly lived up to her reputation. Her judgment was extremely sharp. Indeed, Song Ao was eliminated. On the battle platform, silence fell once again. The 11 participants all maintained their silence, as though this matter had nothing to do with them. Nobody took the initiative to provoke others. After all, this was already the final battle of the top 10. Nobody had absolute confidence that they would be able to defeat the other participants. Hence, everyone was extremely cautious. This wait lasted for a very long time. Finally, The aura of one of the participants fluctuated as though he couldn't endure it any longer. This person was none other than the #1 genius of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugushishan. Dong Xingting's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he murmured, "Princess has such a sharp judgment. It's rumored that Princess Lioli is able to peer into fate and know one's fate. Indeed, her reputation is well-deserved. Could it be that Princess is able to predict the top 3 rankers? Using constellations to predict one's fate is only one of the myriad of martial paths. This isn't prophecy. Nobody would be able to predict everything. It's impossible for me to predict the top 3 rankers," Princess Lioli calmly replied. On the battle platform, Dugushishan's aura flickered in and out of existence. He was a heaven chosen of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, and cultivated the power of blazing flames. His cultivation art was extremely tyrannical, and the cultivation art he cultivated would surely influence Wuxia's personality. For example, for those who cultivated in sinister arts, their personality would gradually become more sinister. For those who cultivated in ice arts, their aura would also become more reserved, like a block of ice. This was the norm. Dugushishan pointed at Mo1 and said, "What's the point of waiting like this? Mo1, I am #1 in Qiang Province, and you are #1 in Tain Province. Our cultivation powers are completely opposite. Let's fight." Mo1's figure was slim and her figure was perfect. She was an icy beauty. However, when she fought, her power was shocking. She stepped out, her frosty eyes staring at Dugushishan. Since Dugushishan wanted to fight, she could only accept. The two of them released their auras, one hot and one cold. Dugushishan's aura was incomparably blazing, as if it wanted to incinerate heaven and earth. Even the void seemed to be branded red. Mo1's aura was incomparably cold. Frost and frost extended outwards, sealing the heavens and earth. Even before the two of them clashed, cold and hot chi could already be felt congregating in the air. It was extremely terrifying, and there were even faint sounds of sizzling could be heard. The spectators only saw that on the platform, there seemed to be a clear division of space. One space was blazing like fire, the other was as cold as ice. The two auras grew stronger and stronger as they clashed against each other. Dugushishan and Mo1 walked towards each other, step by step. In the airspace above Dugushishan, a wheel of flames appeared. An incomparably scorching flame appeared within it. In his hands, there was also a wheel of flames that could incinerate everything. In the airspace above Mo1, the goddess of frost wielded a long spear, guarding him. Boom! Within the wheel of flames, a boundless amount of flames akin to fire dragons erupted forth, transforming into beams of fiery light that shot towards Mo1. The goddess of frost in the airspace above Mo1 stabbed out with her spear, causing the heavens and earth to be sealed in ice. Frost and frost appeared. Even the flames were about to be frozen solid. Terrifying sounds of sizzling rang out unceasingly. Dugushishan finally rushed out. The wheel of flames in his hands arced through the air as a wheel of wind and fire appeared in the air. The blazing flames tore through the air, slicing apart the frost as it directly shot towards Mo1. The long spear in Mo1's hands stabbed out with incomparable precision, directly colliding with the wheel of wind and fire. The flames exploded as the wheel of wind and fire shattered. However, Dugushishan continued his frenzied attack. Countless wheels of wind and fire brought about sizzling sounds as they sliced through the air, madly rushing towards Mo1. In an instant, the ice was corroded by the destructive flames, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Mo1's entire body was covered in a snowy robe. Her long hair was like frost, a shadow appeared behind her, as though she had transformed into an ice goddess. She wielded an ice spear as her silhouette flickered. In an instant, countless silhouettes of ice goddesses appeared in the air, following Mo1's movements. All of them wielded ice spears at the same time as they slashed out. Terrifying rivers of ice gushed out as the two forces collided unceasingly in the air. Everything was destroyed. Mo1's body floated towards Dugushishan. The shadow behind her released a divine radiance, enveloping her. In the blink of an eye, she seemed to have appeared in front of Dugushishan. "You're courting death." Dugushishan coldly snorted. His body released a boundless blazing radiance. as though his entire being had transformed into raging flames that could incinerate everything. A buzzing sound rang out from his body as a terrifying blazing chi current surged out. His palms slammed out as the all-destroying will diagram flew towards Mo1. That terrifying flame was truly capable of incinerating the heavens and earth. However, at this moment, Mo1's body seemed to emit an extreme coldness, as though she was a true ice queen descending to earth. The ice goddess was protecting her, covering her in a divine radiance, immortal and impervious to the raging flames. That terrifying flame frantically attacked the icy radiance, yet it was unable to break through. Mo1's long spear pierced out. Dugu Shishan's countenance was filled with shock as he stared at Mo1's silhouette. The terrifying will blocked in front of him, yet it was directly pierced through by the long spear, following which, the wheel was sealed in ice, shattering into pieces. His body was also gradually turning into ice as his arms were slowly being frozen. I concede. Dugu Shishan roared. He only needed an instant and his entire person would be transformed into an ice sculpture of death. As the sound of his voice faded, Mo1 silently retreated. Dugu Shishan relied on the heat radiating from his body as well as the power of his bloodline to expel the ice from his body. His body swiftly recovered, but his countenance was still extremely unsightly to behold. This battle he was defeated. He became the last person to be eliminated. Not only that, this battle was initiated by him. And now the top 10 were revealed. Dong Xingting sighed in his heart. He couldn't help but to be impressed. Princess Liuli's judgment was much more accurate compared to his. She had hit the nail on the head. Song Ao and Dugu Shishan were the first to lose their patience. Both of them were defeated and eliminated. Dugu Shishan had a desolate look on his face as he walked down the platform. On the platform, only 10 participants remained. Congratulations to everyone for entering the top 10. Dong Xingting smiled. Yet he was extremely unhappy in his heart. Among the top 10, Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian occupied 3 spots. However, although Dong Xingting was unhappy, he didn't have any objections. This Qin Wentian wasn't convinced back then, and wanted to use his dazzling performance to enter the top 3, gaining the recognition of his father, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, and gaining a chance to interact with Princess Qing. Most probably, other than becoming the personal disciple of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Qin Wentian had no other way to ascend to the heavens in a single step, and come into contact with the daughter of the Chongqing the Great. Qin Wentian was undoubtedly a fool talking nonsense. Even if he really managed to enter the Dongshengshan Gate, Dong Xingting had 10,000 methods to ensure that Qin Wentian would die without even knowing how he died. Naturally, even if this was the case, Dong Xingting still didn't wish for Qin Wentian to enter the top 3. If this fellow managed to enter the top 3, and didn't do something crazy like what he had guessed, it would definitely damage the face of his father. Although he felt that the possibility of this was very small, it was still better to be cautious. The geniuses of this batch aren't bad at all. The top 10 all have outstanding talent. An immortal king praised. Very strong indeed, I'm filled with anticipation. Everyone, let's head down the platform to rest first. After being so tense for so long, it's time to enjoy the delicacies. Dong Xingting laughed. After that, the 10 participants walked down the platform and headed towards different directions. The direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp was extremely conspicuous because there were 3 supreme geniuses heading there. When Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian returned to the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, even those supreme geniuses of the Cloud Prefecture, who didn't like them, all shut their mouths at this moment. In the top 10, these 3 had a very high possibility of rising to glory. At the very least, they would be accepted as disciples by immortal kings. Although the 3 of them were very strong, the spectators didn't expect them to be this strong. All 3 of them actually managed to enter the top 10. How dazzling was that? Qin Wentian didn't care about them at all. On the contrary, he calmly sat down. Their goal wasn't merely to enter the top 10. Next, for the final battle of the top 10, we shall determine the final ranking. Everyone, what do you all think the rules should be? Dong Xingting stared at everyone as he asked. Princess Liuli always has her own thoughts. Why don't we ask her opinion? Princess, what do you think? Dong Xingting smiled. The final battle is extremely important. We have to be extremely cautious. It's better for your highness and the elders of the Dong Shengshan Gate to decide the rules. Princess Lioli rejected. She naturally knew that this was the best time to decide the final battle. She mustn't overstep her boundaries and meddle in the affairs of others. Might as well. Since Princess has already speculated, only the elders and me can make the decision. Dong Xingting nodded as he started to discuss with the immortal kings. For the top 3 rankers, shouldn't the rewards be decided? Let us all have a competitive heart. Only to see at this moment a clear voice drifted over. The gazes of everyone turned in the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, only to see that the person who spoke was none other than Jun Mingchen. All of them couldn't help but to curse in their hearts. This fellow was truly too impatient. Did he really think that he would be able to enter the top 3? However, given Jun Mingchen's strength, the spectators didn't dare to deny the possibility of this happening. However, becoming a sage child of the Dong Shengshan Gate, and being accepted as a personal disciple by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, wasn't this enough to make him competitive? Why must there be a reward? This fellow was truly comical. Little fellow, the status of one of the top 3 rankers is much more valuable compared to the rewards. An immortal king laughed. That's the personal disciple of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor. Let's talk about the rewards first. There's no conflict anyway. Jun Mingchen continued. He wouldn't take the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor as his master anyway. Okay then, I will talk about the rewards first. Dong Xingting laughed. Chapter 872. Dong Xingting stared at everyone as a smile appeared on his face. The rewards for the top 3 rankers, given the generosity of the Dong Shengshan Gate, would surely be at the Immortal King grade. A treasure of this level was something even Immortal Foundation experts had no way to touch. Yet, the top 3 rankers of this Immortal Banquet actually had a chance to obtain it. How valuable was this? For this Immortal Banquet, the reward for the first ranker is a Sky Rock Rune Bone. This Sky Rock is the mount of one of the 4 paragons of our Dong Shengshan Gate. Ordinary Immortal Kings all refer to him as Paragon Sky Rock, an Immortal Foundation greater demon with supreme strength. This rune bone contains the essence energy of Paragon Sky Rock within it. Dong Xingting spoke, causing the hearts of many immortal kings of the Dong Shengshan Gate to tremble. Paragon Sky Rock, that incomparably lofty Sky Rock. If one could obtain the rune bone, it would definitely be extremely beneficial to one's comprehension. One could even sense the might of Paragon Sky Rock. Below, countless Immortal Foundation experts felt their hearts pounding. If they could obtain the rune bone, how good would that be? Sadly, only the top 3 rankers would be able to obtain it. The reward for the second ranker is also a treasure left behind by a paragon of our Dong Shengshan Gate. This paragon once cultivated in a mountain rampart for thousands of years, and after that, the rampart transformed into an immortal rampart, containing the insights of that paragon. In fact, one could even see the essence energy of that paragon. It's extremely valuable. Dong Xingting continued, causing another round of exclamations of shock. Even immortal kings would want to obtain it. The 4 paragons of the Dong Shengshan Gate were characters that followed the Dongxing Heaven Emperor in his expeditions. They were supreme existences of the Dong Shengshan Gate, the 4 strongest subordinates of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. The reward for the third ranker is an immortal king ranked divine weapon. Because your strength is insufficient to unleash the power of a divine weapon of this level. This is a flying-type divine weapon. Dong Xingting slowly spoke. An immortal king ranked divine weapon was ranked 3rd. What concept was this? The 3 rewards were all immortal king ranked treasures. Are you satisfied now? Dong Xingting smiled at Jun Mingchen. Haha, in that case I will get one of them. Jun Mingchen laughed heartily. His tone was still casual, but it also gave off an extremely arrogant feeling. It was as if he had already locked onto the top 3 spots. This was no ordinary level of arrogance. The remaining top 10 were all transcendents. Which one of them wasn't a peerless character? Top 3 was easier said than done. Other than Qin Wentian and the other two demon-level geniuses, the others, Gusi Tianqi, Feather King, Hua Taishu, Ruthless, Yi Qianchen, Qin Ta, and Mo Wen. Every time the spectators saw these 10 people, they would feel a headache. They had a feeling that eliminating any one of them was an extremely cruel thing. I have a question I wish to consult your highness. At this moment, Princess Liuli spoke. Dong Xingting smiled. Princess, please speak. Hua Taishu and Ruthless are part of the top 10. In that case, will they be included in the final rankings? Princess Liuli asked. Hua Taishu and Ruthless were the disciples of the myriad incarnations Immortal King and the undefeatable Devil King respectively. Not only that, the myriad incarnations Immortal King wasn't someone from the Dongshengshan Gate. What would happen if they were to be part of the top 3? Would the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor also accept them as his personal disciples? Naturally, they will be included. Since they are part of the top 3, the rewards will still belong to them. My royal father won't force them to do things against their will. They can freely choose if they want to take my royal father as their master or not. Everyone will be treated equally. Dong Xingting laughed heartily, exuding an aura of elegance. I understand. Princess Lioli's countenance didn't change, but her heart was as clear as a mirror. Hua Taishu and Ruthless participating in the selection test was also a ploy by Dong Xingting. If the two of them were to become part of the top 3, the other participants would naturally have no qualifications to take the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor as their master. If not, if others were to say that the talents of the Immortal Emperor's disciples were inferior to the disciples of the myriad incarnations Immortal King and the undefeatable Devil King, wouldn't that be too good to hear? What sort of character was the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor? Even if he didn't accept many disciples, he wouldn't allow such words to appear. Although in truth, it was impossible for all the disciples of the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor to be more talented compared to the disciples of the other immortal kings. At the very least, such words must not appear in this once-a-100-year immortal banquet. Everything that happened here would surely be circulated around the immortal realms. Your Highness, the ranking test of the top 10 has to be carried out with extreme caution. We can't use a single battle to determine the rankings. I suggest we use 3 rounds of battles, just like how the top 10 participants suppress their cultivation bases to compete against each other. This is the most direct test of combat prowess. There has to be such a battle. As for the first 2 rounds, we can invite the immortal kings here to act, testing their will and temperament. At this moment, a supreme immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate spoke in a low voice. Naturally, as for the specifics, Your Highness has to make the final decision. I'm merely giving you a suggestion. What you said is logical. Combat prowess is the most important test. Since their cultivation bases are different, it's best to suppress one's cultivation base and fight against each other. However, we can't use a single battle to determine everything. Dong Xingting smiled and nodded. Let's do as you say. There will be 3 rounds and the rankings will be determined after each round. It's best if we use the results of the 3 rounds to determine the final ranking. Your Highness will make the decision. The immortal kings at the side nodded in agreement. For the first round, we shall hand it over to the Dream Demon King. It's most suitable for the Dream Demon King to be the one testing the top 10. Dong Xingting glanced at an immortal king not far away from him. This immortal king was clad in black robes, but he was currently leaning against a chair, sleeping leisurely as though he was in a deep sleep. Dong Xingting didn't mind. He knew that the Dream Demon King had heard his words. This Dream Demon King was definitely the nightmare of many experts. He could kill in his dreams and was one of the most terrifying existences in the Dongshengshan Gate. Indeed, it's very suitable for the Dream Demon King to be the one testing the top 10. The immortal kings laughed. However, it's still early now. Let's let them rest for a while more before we continue drinking. Dong Xingting raised his wine cup and toasted the immortal kings. The group of them chatted. The atmosphere was extremely harmonious. Senior brother. At this moment, Jun Mengchen stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. Qin Wentian turned to Jun Mengchen only to hear Jun Mengchen transmitting his voice to him. Senior brother, you have a grudge with Dong Xingting and Deep Flame. Before this, The deep flame immortal king hinted that you are destined to not be able to enter the top 3. In addition, this Dongxing Ting has always been very polite, like a smiling tiger. Would he intentionally target you in the final round? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed. He didn't expect Jun Mingchen to have thought of this point. Before this, he heard Dongxing Ting saying that there would be 3 rounds, and the final round would be a head-on battle. The rules were all set by Dongxing Ting, and it wasn't impossible for Dongxing Ting to target him. Mingchen, if they really want to target us, all 3 of us might be targeted. Let's counter soldiers with generals and do our best. During the most important round, they wouldn't be able to target us even if they wanted to. Qin Wentian replied. Jun Mingchen nodded his head. If they really want to target us, let's turn the heavens and earth upside down. The 3 of them chatted, but Dongxing Ting's carefree voice drifted over. Everyone, the rules for the top 10 have already been set. For the first round, the Dream Demon King shall act. Now the top 10 geniuses, please step onto the battle platform. When the 10 geniuses heard this, they respectively stepped onto the platform and stood in different locations. The Dream Demon King was still sleeping. It was like he had never woken up before. For this round, the Dream Demon King will act. Whoever can no longer persist will be ranked last, and the one who can persist till the end will be ranked first. Naturally, this is merely the ranking for the first round. For the next 3 rounds, there will be rankings for all participants. At the very end, the overall ranking will be determined. Dongxing Ting slowly spoke. He then stared at the Dream Demon King and continued. Now Senior can act. There were no signs or auras. The Dream Demon King didn't even move, but at this instant, the 10 geniuses on the platform suddenly felt the scene before their eyes changing. They were no longer on the battle platform. Dreamscape. Qin Wentian's countenance flickered. Right now around him was a vast land. He was brought into the dreamscape of the Dream Demon King. Soundless and formless. Too powerful, he instantly entered the dreamscape. Qin Wentian stared at his surroundings. There was nothing here. He found a stone platform and sat cross-legged as he closed his eyes to meditate. The silence in this space was so terrifying that it was terrifying. In fact, there were no signs of life at all. It was as though he was exiled into this dreamscape. Time seemed to pass by a very long time. Qin Wentian calmed his heart and focused, not caring about external matters. But at this moment his eyes opened. In front of him, a silhouette appeared. This silhouette was pure and flawless, akin to a snow lotus on an ice mountain. That perfect body was flawless, and her beautiful eyes were so clear and penetrating. Qin Wentian mumbled. He stared at the silhouette that appeared. Are you okay? Qinger's countenance changed as a soul-stirring smile appeared on her face. This is just a dream. How can you appear here? Qin Wentian laughed in self-mockery. But he truly missed Qinger. As he thought of this, his lips curled up in a smile as many scenes flashed before his eyes. The time he spent with Qinger all flashed before his eyes. From the first time they met in the Celestial Lake Palace, Qinger was instructed by Fairy Qingmei to follow him. Bit by bit, these scenes appeared in his vision. Qin Wentian was immersed in his memories. Traces of longing could be seen in his eyes. This is the dreamscape of the Dream Demon King. Am I unable to stabilize my state of mind? I'm actually missing Qinger. Qin Wentian silently mused. He discovered that at this moment, he was no longer in the wilderness. Instead, he was truly immersed in his memories. These memories were like a dream that was happening right now. Abruptly, Qin Wentian felt his entire body turning cold as cold sweat appeared on his back. He also cultivated the mandate of dreams. This wasn't the dream of the Dream Demon King, it was his dream. The Dream Demon King was spying on his dreams, spying on his memories. No, Qin Wentian guarded his mind, wanting to block out all distracting thoughts. However, he discovered that the scenes of the past flashed before his eyes one after another. At this moment, it wasn't only about Qinger, it was also about himself. The spectators naturally didn't know what was happening to them. The top 10 geniuses all stood on the platform unmoving. The Dream Demon King didn't move at all from the start to the end. Only Dongxing Ting's eyes gleamed brightly as he stared at the participants. When his gaze landed on Qin Wentian, it would flicker with sharpness. Chapter 873. What sort of status did the Dream Demon King have? He was the king of dreams and had control over powerful law energy. He could easily enter the dreamscape of others. Where did dreams come from? They were born from the subconscious of humans. The Dream Demon King could make use of dreams to invade the subconscious of humans, prying into their most important memories. In the depths of Qin Wentian's consciousness, his most precious memories would naturally appear. At this moment, Qin Wentian's aura gushed forth frenziedly. There was actually a powerful tempest that engulfed the platform, erupting forth, causing many people to be startled as they stared in the direction of Qin Wentian. In the dreamscape, Qin Wentian wanted to break free from it, stabilizing his state of mind, not allowing the Dream Demon King to pry into his memories. However, it was as though he was being controlled by a mysterious law energy. He had no way to break free from those memories. He thought of Qingqing again. It was like he could see Qingqing waiting for him in the particle world. That flawless countenance, her beautiful eyes like water, filled with boundless longing, as though she was waiting for his return. The medicine sovereign stood beside Qingqing, trying to persuade her. These were the thoughts in his subconscious, manifesting in his dreamscape. Qin Wentian's countenance turned pale and unsightly. The more he recalled, the more the Dream Demon King would understand him, and the more secrets he would be able to pry into. Rage. At this moment, Qin Wentian felt as though he was split into two. On one side, he wanted to struggle free, but on the other side, he couldn't control himself. Despicable. Qin Wentian roared in his heart. Was this really a test? This was clearly spying on him. To Wuxia, this was a great taboo. No stellar martial cultivator was allowed to pry into the memories of others. Everyone had their own secrets, and once this taboo was breached, it would result in a great deal of hatred. Hence, for those who were proficient in soul-searching, no one would be willing to interact with them. And the Dream Demon King was making use of this test to pry into his memories. His memories flashed unceasingly. He thought of his loved ones in the particle world. His foster father Qin Chuan, Yi Qingyun, his sister Qin Yao, World Ruohuan, his master Mustang and the others. He also thought of Fatty Fanlo, Ouyang Quangxing and the others. This can't go on. Qin Wentian's other voice bellowed. An imposing figure seemed to appear in front of him. This figure looked at him with a smile, yet it was indomitable. Wisps of white flame started burning in his body, getting brighter and brighter, illuminating his heart. In an instant, it engulfed his entire body. Get out! A furious roar resounded through the fighting ring. Qin Wentian suddenly opened his eyes and took a few steps back. He had already woken up. At this instant, numerous gazes landed on Qin Wentian. Dong Xingting's countenance was as calm as ever, but a sharp light flickered within. The Deep Flame Immortal King was coldly laughing in his heart. Top 3? Did he really think he could enter the top 3? Qin Wentian was indulging in the wildest fantasies. No matter if he came here with sincerity and wanted to fight for another chance to enter the tutelage of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, Dong Xingting would never allow him to enter the top 3. As for Dong Xingting, he was the controller of the rules. Although on the surface he was asking for the opinions of everyone, there was no need to doubt who the true controller of the rules was. Dong Xingting. The first genius to be unable to persist, this Qin Wentian is ranked number 27 in the Cloud Prefecture. His combat prowess is extremely powerful, but who would have thought that he would be the first to fail in the first test? An Immortal King sighed. The Dream Demon King tests one's will and temperament. Sometimes, although one's combat prowess is strong, it doesn't mean that one's will and temperament would be outstanding as well. In addition, there are no weaklings among the top 10. All of them are extremely powerful. It's only normal for Qin Wentian to be the first to be eliminated. Another Immortal King stated, "Don't be anxious, this is only the first test. Who knows, maybe he would have an outstanding performance in the next 2 rounds. Seniors, don't be too hasty to make a judgment." Dong Xingting laughed as though he was speaking up for Qin Wentian. Princess Lioli's beautiful eyes flickered with a strange light as she stared at Qin Wentian on the platform. From her perspective, Qin Wentian shouldn't be the first to be eliminated. This person's patience was extremely strong, his will was extremely resolute, and his temperament was extraordinary. Even if he wasn't the most outstanding, he wouldn't be the first to be eliminated. As she thought of this, Princess Glaze cast a deep glance at the sleeping Dream Demon King, as well as the other immortal kings who were whispering to each other. All of them were laughing and chatting with each other, as though none of them had discovered anything amiss at all. This scene was so obvious. However, did they really not know anything at all? Unable to persist? Qin Wentian exited because he couldn't persist any longer? He took the initiative to break free. Qin Wentian stood on the platform as he surveyed his surroundings. The other 9 participants were still immersed in their respective tests and hadn't exited yet. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared in the direction of the Dream Demon King. However, he didn't say anything. What would he say? That he had been treated unfairly? This place was the Dongshengshan Gate, and the Dream Demon King was the examiner appointed by Dongshengting. The Dream Demon King only needed to find an excuse and say that it was one of the tests. What could Qin Wentian do? Maybe Dongshengting set up this test so that if he lost, he wouldn't be able to refute. If he did, the other immortal kings could directly say that his temperament was too weak. And if he lost, he could still blame the examiner, the Dream Demon King. Dongshengting was telling him whose territory this was. The words of the Deep Flame Immortal King rang out in his mind. Some endings were already destined. But was it really destined? Qin Wentian closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the platform, not saying a single word. He had long prepared himself in his heart, and was prepared to be targeted. In that case, what else could he say? Everything would depend on the ending. The tests of the others continued. Time flowed by and Qin Ta was the second to exit. After him was Zi Qingxian. Zi Qingxian was the third to awaken. When she woke up, her breathing was hurried, and she drew in a deep breath before she stabilized her state of mind. She saw that Qin Wentian had also awoken as a look of bewilderment appeared on her face. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. What did you encounter in the dreamscape? Memory prying. He wanted to pry into my memories, but I broke free from it myself. Qin Wentian didn't hide anything from Zi Qingxian. He then asked, what about you? What a terrifying dreamscape. He was searching for the things I feared the most in my subconscious, trying to provoke me. Zi Qingxian stared at Qin Wentian. Seems like the Dream Demon King treats everyone differently. For the 10 of them, the difficulty of the tests can be completely different, and he can even decide the rankings. Qin Wentian coldly transmitted his voiceover. Zi Qingxian understood. So what if this was the test of the Dongshengshan Gate? At the start, everything was done according to the rules. But at the end of the test, if there was something fishy going on, who would dare to pursue the matter? Yi Qianchen was the fourth to exit. After him was Jun Mingchen. Senior brother Qin, senior sister Qingxian, what are your rankings? Jun Mingchen directly transmitted his voiceover. I'm third from the bottom. Zi Qingxian replied. I'm first from the bottom. Qin Wentian replied. The words of the two of them caused Jun Mingchen's eyes to narrow as his countenance turned extremely unsightly to behold. How outstanding were the performances of these 3 fellow apprentices before this. But when it came to the ranking of the top 10, their performances were no longer so outstanding. The top 10 are simply too strong. An immortal king in the banquet spoke. That's true. Qin Wentian, Hua Taishu and Hua Taishu were all ranked at the bottom 5. Not a single one of them managed to enter the top 5. Such a performance wasn't as outstanding as their earlier performances. After that, Emowen was also eliminated, followed by Ruthless and Feather King. Gusu Tianqi, as expected of a supreme genius, and also the disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king. He has experienced the world of reincarnation, and his state of heart is extraordinary. The crowd sighed in admiration when they saw Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu persisting till the end. Myriad incarnations, your disciple is truly outstanding. Someone stared at the myriad incarnations immortal king as he laughed. The myriad incarnations immortal king had a smile on her face. For this round, if the conditions were the same, She felt that Hua Taishu would definitely be ranked first. But at this moment, Hua Taishu's eyes suddenly opened. The myriad incarnations immortal king was bewildered when she saw this scene. But she merely smiled in response. That's right, if her disciple was ranked first. Wouldn't it be a little too inappropriate? Gusu Tianqi was the last to awaken. The 10 of them all woke up one after another. The Dream Demon King was still in a deep slumber, as though nothing had happened. Everything had nothing to do with him. Many thanks for the Dream Demon King's help. Dong Xingting smiled. He stared at the top 10 geniuses on the platform as he spoke. Everyone, being able to persist for so long under the Dream Demon King's test is truly extraordinary. This is especially so for Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu. Awesome. Naturally, for those who are ranked at the bottom, don't be discouraged. Dong Xingting spoke as he turned his gaze to Qin Wentian and smiled. There are still 2 more rounds of tests after this. As long as your performance is outstanding, you would still be able to turn the tables around. All the immortal kings, let's see your performance. The participants all fell silent. Qin Wentian stared at Dong Xingting's handsome countenance, exuding a graceful demeanor. Everything seemed so natural to him. Now, I shall announce the rankings for the first round. First, Gusu Tianqi, second, Hua Taishu, third, Feather King, fourth, Ruthless, fifth, Mo1, sixth, Jun Mingchen, seventh, Yi Qianchen, eighth, Zi Qingxian, ninth, Qin Ta, and 10th, Qin Wentian. Dong Xingting slowly spoke, announcing the rankings for the first round. In this round, Qin Wentian's ranking was directly pushed to the last place. The eyes of the Deep Flame Immortal King flickered as he stared at the platform. Dong Xingting was truly ruthless enough. In this case, what could Qin Wentian do to turn the tables around? Top 3? Dream on. Chapter 874. Dong Xingting had a smile on his face, exuding an extraordinary demeanor. He stared at the participants as he continued. The rankings of the first round can't determine the final rankings. Next, everyone still has to work hard and fight for the top 3 positions. Can I give you a suggestion? At this moment, a voice drifted over from the ancient Zhantian platform. Momentarily, everyone turned their gazes over. It was none other than Jun Mingchen. Dong Xingting also noticed Jun Mingchen as he smiled. Speak. For the second round, can you be more transparent? At the very least, let everyone know what we experienced. Jun Mingchen faintly spoke, his words causing strange expressions to appear on the faces of the participants. Given their intelligence, they naturally understood the meaning behind Jun Mingchen's words. However, although this Jun Mingchen had an explosive temper, he didn't say it so directly. But evidently he was hinting at something. In the earlier first round, the Dream Demon King entered our dreamscape. I asked my senior brothers and sisters about it, and the experiences of everyone are different. Although Senior Dream Demon King is the one controlling everything, it's inevitable that there would be some deviation. In fact, if I were to say something disrespectful, Senior Dream Demon King can decide the rankings with a single thought. Because in front of Senior Dream Demon King, we have no way to resist at all. If he wants us to come out, we have to come out. Jun Mingchen continued, his tone sharper than before. However, he still didn't doubt the results of the first round and wouldn't really go against Dong Xingting and the Dream Demon King. He understood that there would be no results if he did so. Hence, I suggest to Your Highness that for the second round, it's better to be more transparent. In this case, at the very least, everyone would know what they experienced and the seniors here would be able to see it with a single glance. At the very least, no one would doubt the results of the second round. After all, this is the immortal banquet hosted by the Dongshengshan Gate. Jun Mingchen's last sentence was extremely obvious. This was the immortal banquet of the Dongshengshan Gate. If you, Dong Xingting, wanted to control things from the shadows, you could directly decide the ending. I also agree with Jun Mingchen's suggestion. I hope Your Highness can consider it. Zi Qingxian added. Her countenance was calm, no emotions could be seen in her beautiful eyes. I think so too. At this moment, an indifferent voice rang out. It was Mo Wen's voice. 3 people had spoken up consecutively. This was not a lightweight, and one of them was not Qin Wentian. I also hope that next time if I Qin am in last place again, I will be convinced. Qin Wentian faintly spoke. Mo Wen's attitude caused him to be taken aback. Initially, he didn't want to say anything, but in this case, for out of the 10 participants had already expressed their opinions. This Dongxing Ting had no choice but to seriously consider their opinions. The 4 of them clearly pointed out a topic. If Dongxing Ting insisted on doing things his way, it would be too obvious. Since all of you have put it this way, I Dongxing Ting naturally agree. Dongxing Ting straightforwardly agreed with no hesitation. The misunderstanding caused by the first round was due to my lack of consideration. The 10 participants in the final round are all peerless geniuses, brimming with confidence. It's only natural for them to feel indignant about being ranked at the bottom. I should have thought of this earlier. I should have arranged for everyone to see the battle clearly, so that I wouldn't be questioned. For the first round, I caused everyone to misunderstand. The 10 participants of the second round are all supreme geniuses that exuded boundless magnificence throughout the generations and were filled with confidence. Since they were ranked last, they naturally wouldn't be convinced in their hearts. I should have thought of this earlier and arranged for a round where everyone could see it clearly. That way, I wouldn't be doubted. As the sound of his voice faded, a moment later, several experts moved a gigantic devil statue towards the battle platform. This devil statue was extremely terrifying, containing an intense will within it. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, 3 faces and 3 pairs of eyes. No matter where one was, they would be able to see the devil statue's eyes with a single glance. This devil statue was extremely terrifying, as though it contained an intense will within. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, 3 faces and 3 pairs of eyes. No matter where one was, they would be able to see the devil statue's eyes with a single glance. However, when the participants stared intently at the devil statue's eyes, they instantly felt a terrifying vortex swirling around them. Those pitch-black eyes seemed to want to devour them as numerous terrifying devil generals lunged towards them, causing their countenances to tremble as they hurriedly averted their gazes, guarding their hearts and minds. This devil statue is extremely strange. The hearts of everyone trembled. Those experts moved the devil statue towards the platform and directly moved it up, placing it at the center of the platform. Qin Wentian and the other 8 geniuses already discovered the strangeness of the devil statue when it was moved up. This devil statue contained a fearsome will and was able to attack people. Dongxing Ting then spoke. The second test is very simple. This devil statue contains an extremely powerful will. You guys just have to circle around it and stare at the eyes of the statue, enduring its might. Whoever can shift their eyes away first would be ranked last, and whoever persisted the longest would be ranked first. In this case, the test should be transparent enough, right? Dongxing Ting nodded. That's right. Qin Wentian nodded. The participants didn't say anything more. Dongxing Ting continued. Right now, the 10 of you, stand in your positions and circle around the devil statue. Close your eyes, and when I say start, all of you have to open your eyes at the same time and stare into the eyes of the statue. The 10 geniuses followed Dongxing Ting's instructions and stood in 10 different positions around the devil statue. They faced the statue and closed their eyes. In just an instant, all 10 of them were in their positions. It's about to begin. The second round is extremely important. Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian didn't seem to be convinced by the results of the first round, and were ranked at the back. But if their rankings are any worse in the second round, there's no hope for them to enter the top 3. Gusu Tianqi is indeed the top ranker of the Eastern Prefecture. His popularity is still the highest, and there's no need to doubt his combat prowess. And in the first round of the test, he already obtained the first position. As long as he is ranked within the top 3 in this round, he would already be one of the top 3 rankers. The disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king, Hua Taishu, also has a high chance of entering the top 3. Other than Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu, there's only Feather King left. Before this, they all thought that Qin Wentian and Jun Mingchen also had a high chance of entering the top 3. But after the first round, their ranking was already too low. Their chances of entering the top 3 had plummeted. Now they had to see if they could turn the situation around. Begin. At this moment, Dong Xingting's voice rang out. The 10 geniuses all opened their eyes at the same time, staring into the eyes of the devil statue. At the instant Qin Wentian opened his eyes, he instantly felt his heart trembling. This was a pair of devil eyes, akin to an unparalleled abyss. In just an instant, one's consciousness would be drawn into it. Qin Wentian had a feeling that his soul was being pulled into another dimension. That was a strand of his consciousness being drawn into the eyes of the devil statue. This was a terrifying abyss, a blood-colored world where there was no daylight. This entire world was akin to purgatory. The ancient city was in ruins, the earth was broken, and there were many broken divine weapons stabbed into the ground, stained with fresh blood. Abruptly, Qin Wentian inclined his head as his heart pounded violently. He saw a devil that was over 10 million meters tall, like a supreme devil king staring at him. This devil stretched his hand out, and a moment later, a blood-colored saber appeared in his hand, exuding a terrifying aura. The devil lifted the saber and slashed it out, causing the heavens and earth to be split apart. Qin Wentian's countenance paled. There was no way he could defend against this saber that slashed through the skies. A single slash was sufficient to slay him. No, it's just a strand of my consciousness. As long as my soul remains, my will remains unaffected. Qin Wentian warned himself. As the saber light descended, everything dissipated. Qin Wentian's body was directly split apart. It was as though he had just experienced a baptism of death. Outside, Qin Wentian's original body groaned in misery. His countenance was as pale as paper, and he felt an intense pain in his head. He took a step back, but his gaze was still fixed on the statue before him, unwavering. His eyes were still fixated on that pair of devilish eyes. The devil eyes contained a terrifying, devouring power. Once again, a strand of Qin Wentian's consciousness was drawn into it. Qin Wentian appeared in that blood-colored world once more. The devil king in the air was still staring at him, exuding an incomparably terrifying coldness. This time, the devil king's palm slashed downwards. Qin Wentian felt the heavens and earth turning dark. He wanted to flee, yet he discovered that there was no place for him to flee. In just an instant, his body was grabbed by the incomparably gigantic devil king, lifted up and placed in front of his eyes. The eyes of the devil king were as terrifying as the abyss, able to pierce through him with a single glance. After that, the devil king clenched his fist, causing Qin Wentian to feel a sense of despair and agony. After that, his body directly turned into ashes as he experienced death once more. This time around, it was even more miserable compared to the last time. Qin Wentian's original body retreated a few more steps as he groaned in misery. His countenance grew even paler. Not only him, the others also had some reaction. It was just that Qin Wentian's reaction was the most intense. In fact, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a blood-red light. However, he continued to stare fixedly ahead. That pair of devilish eyes was like a bottomless abyss, corroding his sea of consciousness once more. There was no way to block it at all. Could it be that this Qin Wentian's will is truly weak? Before this, he was ranked last. But now, the one with the greatest reaction is him again. An immortal king spoke. However, the myriad incarnations immortal king, undying immortal king and the others all frowned, feeling some doubt in their hearts. They had met Qin Wentian before in the past. He was extremely powerful and had a resolute will. Although the 10 people here were all very strong, he shouldn't be the weakest among them. However, the truth was right before their eyes. Everyone was facing the same predicament. Qin Wentian was no exception. Bai Wuya was calm from start to end. From the start till the end, he didn't say anything and was like an outsider. Although the countenance of the white-robe immortal king was calm, there were waves of shock in his heart. This examination was truly difficult for these little fellows. Dong Xingting clearly didn't allow them to obtain the top 3. Qin Wentian, if they wanted to pass the examination, they had to fight against the rules. Casting a deep glance at the devil statue, Bai Wuya completely believed that there was something strange about this statue. Chapter 875. Qin Wentian's consciousness was drawn into that blood-colored world for the third time. The eyes of the Devil King in the air were incomparably cold. He stared at Qin Wentian as he brandished his devil saber once more. Qin Wentian coldly stared at the Devil King in the air. His eyes were filled with a terrifying stubbornness as he coldly spoke. Severing my consciousness is equivalent to severing my life, injuring my state of mind. You can easily force me to retreat. Close your eyes. I don't dare to look directly into the eyes of the devil statue. His voice was extremely cold. When his consciousness entered the statue, the Devil King directly destroyed it. You want to force me to retreat with a single strike? In that case, my ranking will be fixed at the bottom. Who exactly are you? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying aura descended. The Devil King didn't say anything, he merely stared at him with his cold blood-colored eyes. Another slash of his saber slashed out. One of his arms was severed. It was incomparably painful. One could even see blood dripping unceasingly from where his severed arm was severed. As expected, you have your own consciousness. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the Devil King. Before this he was only doubtful, but now he was completely certain. The Devil King of the Devil statue had its own consciousness. If not, how could it be so precise, cutting off one of his arms with a single slash, torturing him to death? Qin Wentian's consciousness was drawn into the statue. He would have all of his senses. Such a torturous killing was to make Qin Wentian struggle in pain, to make him lose, to force him out of the competition. Another beam of saber light slashed down, severing the other arm of Qin Wentian. However, he still stood there. Although his entire body was convulsing in pain, his eyes were still fixated in front of him. The blood-red light slashed down, descending directly from the top of Qin Wentian's head inch by inch, swallowing Qin Wentian bit by bit, as if it had deliberately slowed down the process of killing Qin Wentian to torture Qin Wentian's will. Outside, Qin Wentian let out a muffled groan. Blood even flowed from the corner of his mouth. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and he stumbled backward. His consciousness was constantly being devoured and then killed. This kind of torture was enough to make one's will collapse. This was purgatory torture. Haha. I didn't expect the statues to have their own consciousness and know how to torture and kill me. Again. Qin Wentian laughed maniacally. His terrifying devil eyes gleamed with an incomparably fearsome might. That whirlpool directly caused him to sink into it, sucking his will into it once more. Only Qin Wentian's voice remained, echoing through the air. Everyone was shocked, and their eyes were fixed on Qin Wentian's figure. Many cultivators' eyes were shining brightly. The statue has its own consciousness? Torture and kill him? The gazes of some silently turned to Dongxing Ting only to see Dongxing Ting's expression was as calm as ever. He then spoke, the test of the devil statue is extremely difficult, it's the same for all geniuses. Let them experience the true cruelty of killing, and see who can endure it. Dongxing Ting was intentionally explaining to everyone, but was the truth really so? Was the endurance of Qin Wentian's will really the weakest among the 10? If not, why would his reaction be the most intense? Also, what was the consciousness Qin Wentian was talking about? Was this something Qin Wentian fabricated? However, although there were bewilderment in their hearts, the immortal kings naturally wouldn't say anything. This was an immortal banquet of the Dongshengshan Gate, and the rules were set by Dongxing Ting. The experts of the Dongshengshan Gate naturally understood what they were doing. As for those experts who came here to attend the banquet, they naturally wouldn't speak carelessly. The spectators only saw Qin Wentian being forced back again and again. Fresh blood flowed unceasingly from the corner of his mouth, dripping onto the ground. Not only Qin Wentian, the other participants were in the same situation as well. It was as though all of them were enduring immense pain. Finally, one person couldn't endure it any longer and shifted his gaze away. This person was none other than the top ranker of the Qian prefecture, Yi Qianqian. Someone as powerful as Yi Qianqian was actually the first person to be eliminated in this round. What sort of might did this devil statue contain exactly? Only to see that in the depths of the Dongshengshan Gate, there was a palace. Within this palace, a gigantic and imposing figure could be seen sitting cross-legged. This was none other than a powerful devil cultivator. His eyes were closed as devil chi revolved around him. At this moment his consciousness wasn't here, but was focused on the battle platform far away. How tenacious! That devil figure spoke in a low voice. His eyes opened as an extremely cold light flickered within. Those blood-colored devil eyes of his actually bore a slight resemblance to the devil king within the devil statue. He used all sorts of methods, using all sorts of methods to torture Qin Wentian to death, yet that brat still refused to give up. In this case, he had no choice but to act against the others as well. If not, it would be too obvious that he was targeting Qin Wentian, and His Highness would lose face. Sadly, his immortal sense could only exist within the devil statue. He himself was sealed within and couldn't seep out. If not, he would instantly be discovered by the other immortal kings, and that would undoubtedly be a slap to the face of the Dongshengshan Gate. He naturally wouldn't do such a thing. I want to see how long you can endure. That devil cultivator icily spoke, as his will ravaged Qin Wentian's consciousness again and again. Even if Qin Wentian's will was made of iron, he probably wouldn't be able to endure such endless torment. Since that devil statue had its own consciousness, he naturally could do the same as the first round of the test. In the first round, as long as the Dream Demon King was willing, he could easily determine the rankings because his dream covered all 10 participants. For the second round, although it was conducted in secret, at the very least on the surface, the 10 participants were all standing there. Everyone could see their reactions clearly, and the will of this devil cultivator couldn't break out from the devil statue. Hence he was somewhat restricted. But at the very least, he could still easily control the situation. For example, he could choose who to attack the most frequently. For this point, he could make his own choice. From a certain perspective, this second round of the test, which seemed fair, was actually no different from the first round. However, from the surface, there was no doubt that this test was extremely fair. There were no tricks at all. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian and a few others who voiced their doubts, there wouldn't even be a trace of doubt. A roar of rage rang out. The second participant who couldn't endure any longer was eliminated. This time around, it was the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta. His combat prowess was extremely high, but his will was a little weak. Hence he was eliminated. The third person to be eliminated was none other than Zi Qingxian. In the previous round, she was also the third to be eliminated, and was ranked third from the bottom. Zi Qingxuan's countenance turned pale. She stared at the devil statue before her as a cold light flickered in her eyes. She had already endured too much, but ultimately, she couldn't endure any longer. Her will was already on the verge of collapse and she could only choose to retreat. However, her cold eyes were burning with the flames of doubt. She could also sense that the Devil King in the statue had its own consciousness. Since it could think, there was a possibility that it would target her. If the Devil King wanted to target someone, the first person to bear the brunt of it should be Qin Wentian. Zi Qingxian turned her gaze to Qin Wentian only to see that Qin Wentian was in an extremely miserable state. His body was almost pushed to the edge of the platform, and in between him and the devil statue, traces of blood that had yet to dry could be seen. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin Wentian was bitterly enduring, he would have long given up. The final test was divided into 3 rounds. In the first round, Qin Wentian was already ranked last. This was the second round. If he was ranked last again, no matter how outstanding he was in the final round, he wouldn't be able to enter the top 3. He had to do everything he could to reach the top of the rankings. He mustn't be defeated again. With a howl of rage, Qin Wentian's will was severed once more. In that instant of time, he actually took a step forward before his will was sucked into the devil statue once more. This was like a cycle of reincarnation, with no end in sight. The remaining 7 were bitterly enduring, pushing their limits. Finally, Jun Mingchen couldn't hold on any longer. Although he gave it his all, he still couldn't persist any longer. For this round, he could only be ranked number 7. Qin Wentian was still persisting. He actually started to step in the opposite direction. Every step he took was accompanied by the determination of his blood. Senior brother, just give up. Jun Mingchen spoke in a low voice when he saw how much pain Qin Wentian was enduring. He knew how difficult it was for Qin Wentian inside. That perverted Devil King was using cruel methods to torture them. Qin Wentian didn't give up. Mo Wen couldn't persist any longer, and was ranked number 6 in this round. He's in the top 5. Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian both clenched their fists. Under such circumstances, Qin Wentian was ranked in the top 5. In order to not be too obvious, right now, everyone was enduring the pain of their will being destroyed. In addition, the frequency was the same as Qin Wentian. The next one who couldn't endure any longer was Ruthless. Even he who cultivated devil arts couldn't endure any longer, and was ranked number 5. Top 4. Jun Mingchen's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The powerful Feather King finally shifted his gaze away. Top 3. Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian helped Qin Wentian to count the rankings. But after some time, Qin Wentian finally coughed out a mouthful of blood as he shifted his gaze away. He squatted down, feeling his entire body drenched in sweat as his aura weakened. His ranking was also fixed. For this round, he was ranked number 3. Senior brother. Jun Mingchen's silhouette flickered as he appeared before Qin Wentian. Don't worry. Qin Wentian glanced at Gu Zhantian. There were still 2 more participants. It was enough for him to obtain the top 3. He sat down cross-legged as the power of his bloodline surged. A strand of flawless white flames circulated around his body, gradually healing his damaged mental state. The last 2 participants were still persisting. Ultimately, the first to give up was Gusu Tianqi. His will was so strong that he managed to persist till the end. Hua Taishu actually defeated Gusu Tianqi in terms of will, obtaining the number 1 position. Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu. In the first round, Gusu Tianqi was number 1 while Hua Taishu was number 2. In this round, the 2 of them were the exact opposite. As long as they can perform outstandingly in the last round, wouldn't they be able to obtain 2 of the top 3 spots? The eyes of the spectators flickered as they glanced at Qin Wentian. He was frenziedly persisting, bitterly enduring, and eventually managed to enter the top 3 in the second round. This was all for the sake of obtaining one of the top 3 spots in the last round. Chapter 876. Dong Xingting stared at the platform as he spoke. Bring the devil statue down. As the sound of his voice faded, there were people who went to carry the statue away. Many of the 10 geniuses directly sat cross-legged and started their cultivation. Evidently, their hearts and minds had suffered heavy injuries. Everyone being able to persist for so long, as expected of the strongest geniuses of the 13 prefectures. Now, I shall announce the rankings for the second round. Dong Xingting swept his gaze over. From 1st to 10th they are Hua Taishu, Gusu Tianqi, Qin Wentian, Feather King, Ruthless, Mo Wen, Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian, Qin Ta, and Yi Qianchen. For this round, the will of the participants is severed. It's a tempering of one's will and is extremely cruel. Being able to persist for so long, in the future, all of you would definitely have great accomplishments. Dong Xingting straightforwardly spoke, his voice resonating with the earth. As for the inside story, he didn't reveal anything at all, as though there was no inside story at all. Everyone was treated equally and had the same experience. On the platform, the spectators all personally witnessed this. Gotcha. Jun Mingchen clenched his fists tightly as he stared at Dong Xingting. However, this time around, even he didn't say anything. He simply sat there. There was only 1 round left. In a true battle, no one would be able to control the ending. For everything that happened before, even if he resisted, it would be meaningless. This place was the Dong Shengshan Gate. This was the examination of the Dong Shengshan Gate. In that case, from now onwards, he would set his heart at ease and prepare for the final battle. Seems like everyone is tired. In that case, let's take a rest first. Servants, bring over some fine wine, and wait for the final battle to begin. Dong Xingting flicked his sleeves as the serving girls behind him brought over some fine wine, and walked up the platform. This wine was an immortal brew and had medicinal properties, capable of healing injuries. The geniuses didn't stand on ceremony and directly poured the wine into their mouths. drinking it to their heart's content. Again, Jun Mengchen directly drained the contents of his wine as he spoke. For the first round he was ranked number 6. For the second round, he was ranked number 7. As for him, Jun Mengchen, he came here for the top 3. The 2 rounds of results caused a violent rage to burn in his heart. He wanted nothing more than to vent it out. The him right now was like a volcano. Once it erupted, he would be extremely terrifying. In the banquet, the atmosphere was peaceful. There were no arguments, no doubts. Those who knew also pretended not to know, smiling as they discussed the geniuses of the immortal banquet. Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu. Why do I feel that both of them are going to become the top 2 rankers? An immortal king smiled. But Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu's combat prowess are both extremely powerful. Are of the top 2. Of the top 2 rankers of the immortal realms. Of Hua of the Eastern Prefecture. An immortal king laughed. King of the immortal at. Of Cloud. Atav of the top. Of the Jun of the immortal of. Of MHM. The top ranker of the Western Prefecture is extremely powerful. In this immortal realms, the top ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Gusu Tianqi, is unrivaled. Feather King of the Western Prefecture is extremely tyrannical and outstanding. Also the Cloud Prefecture. An immortal king spoke as he sighed. The Cloud Prefecture is truly a pity. Yeah, the Cloud Prefecture is truly a pity this time around. 3 geniuses of the Cloud Prefecture managed to kill their way into the top 10. Such a grand occasion has never happened before. Another person sighed. In the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, the idle Cloud Immortal King stared at the battle platform as he felt somewhat indignant in his heart. He could faintly sense the strangeness of the atmosphere. Qin Wentian and the others seemed to be targeted. This was especially so after he recalled the confrontation between the Deep Flame Immortal King and Qin Wentian earlier. From what they said back then, Qin Wentian had disobeyed Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Dongxing Heaven Emperor initially gave him a chance but abandoned him in the end. This time around, if Qin Wentian was allowed to enter the top 3, it would definitely throw away the face of Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Hence, Dongxing Ting didn't want Qin Wentian and the other 2 to enter the top 3. The idle Cloud Immortal King could only sigh in his heart. He knew that there was something going on behind the scenes, but as a member of the Dongshengshan Gate, it was impossible for him to publicly doubt Dongxing Ting. He could only sigh silently for Qin Wentian and the other 2. Did they really have no fate with the top 3? However, in the Cloud Prefecture's camp, only the idle Cloud Immortal King had a gloating expression on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian on the battle platform. The 3 of them didn't have any hope to enter the top 3. In addition, both Dongxing Ting and the Deep Flame Immortal King didn't like them. If they couldn't enter the top 3 and become sage child characters of the Dongshengshan Gate, what status would they have? Even if they entered the Dongshengshan Gate, given their personalities, they would definitely not submit to the Deep Flame Immortal King. That would be even more fun. Naturally, they could also choose not to enter the Dongshengshan Gate. Such an ending wasn't too bad, right? Right now, the Deep Flame Immortal King was extremely quiet. He didn't argue with Qin Wentian or provoke them. His disciple Blackpeak was killed by Qin Wentian in front of everyone, and he was provoked by Qin Wentian and the others several times. If it was ordinary people, they would definitely not be able to endure it, but the Deep Flame Immortal King actually endured it. He could only watch as Qin Wentian and the others struggled, putting in so much effort only to end up with nothing. In addition, after this immortal banquet ends, they would all have to pay a price for their actions. If Qin Wentian and the others wanted to join the Dongshengshan Gate, he, the Deep Flame Immortal King, had too many methods to take the lives of Qin Wentian and the others. Time continued to flow. Finally, Dongxing Ting's gaze landed on the battle platform as he spoke. Has everyone rested well? The 10 geniuses all opened their eyes as a dazzling light flashed within. From the start of the selections of the various prefectures, to participating in the grand banquet of the Dongshengshan Gate once every 100 years, everything was all for this final battle. However, there were a few who already felt dispirited. For example, Yi Qianchen and Qin Ta. Their rankings for the first 2 rounds were all at the back, and they knew that their chances of getting into the top 3 weren't high. However, since they have already reached this step, only the final battle was left. Since that was the case, they had to fight to their heart's content. If they could suppress all the other participants and shine brightly on the battle platform, they might still have a sliver of hope. Among the 10 geniuses, even for Gusu Tianqi, who had been enduring silently, his eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. Evidently, he had been anticipating this battle for a very long time. After this battle ended, he, Gusu Tianqi, would become the top ranker of this immortal banquet. Among the geniuses of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures, he was ranked number 1. Although Gusu Tianqi grew up in the shadows, this glory was still extremely dazzling. The 10 of them all stood up and stood on the battle platform. A gentle wind gusted by, fluttering their long robes as a formless battle intent gushed forth in all directions. It was as though even the immortals from afar could feel the intense battle intent radiating from them. As expected of the 10 strongest geniuses, just the battle intent radiating from them is so strong that even I can feel it. An immortal king laughed as his eyes gleamed. This battle was held once every 100 years, and this would be the final battle of the immortal banquet, the final battle that would decide the rankings. Although the rankings for the first 2 rounds were already known, the ranking of the final battle was even more important. For example, although Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu had outstanding performances, if they were ranked last in this battle, they wouldn't have a chance to be ranked first or second. In fact, they wouldn't even be able to enter the top 3. If they had the worst performance in the most important battle, what qualifications did they have to enter the top 3? And for Qin Wentian, who was ranked last in the previous battle, if he could suppress all the geniuses in this battle, he would also have a chance to become one of the top 3. This was the weight of this final battle. Cultivation-based suppression. Dong Xingting spoke. In the air, the light from a treasure cascaded downwards, enveloping the entire battle platform. It was as though the bodies of the participants were covered by a layer of multicolored light, as the beams of light shot into the bodies of the participants. Cultivation-based suppression. The 10 geniuses were all suppressed to the same level. The battle was about to begin at any moment. There are no rules for this battle. You guys can fight as you please. It's fine even if you want to turn the heavens and earth upside down. There's only one rule. It's forbidden to gang up on each other. Dong Xingting spoke. Let the battle begin now. As the sound of Dong Xingting's voice faded, an oppressive pressure engulfed the entire battle platform. This final battle was a chaotic battle. Terrifying astral winds billowed. Qin Wentian stood at his original location, unmoving. The other participants also stood in different locations, their sharp eyes sweeping over the participants like prey, contemplating how to act. Senior brother, since they want us to be ranked last, let's use this battle to clear our name. Jun Mingchen spoke. Tell me, how should we fight? Sweep them one by one. Mingchen, Qingxian, you guys choose your opponents first. Qin Wentian spoke, his words causing the countenances of the spectators to stiffen. These 3 fellows were so arrogant. Out of the 10 geniuses, 3 of them and the other 7, none of them were weaklings. They were all incomparably tyrannical. Yet these 3 actually dared to say that they would sweep them one by one? I choose Yi Qianchen. Zi Qingxian spoke. I choose Qin Ta. Jun Mingchen spoke. Fine, I will act as your protector. After the battle ends, we can switch again. Qin Wentian spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, Jun Mingchen walked towards Qin Ta. A king battle armor appeared on his body as a supreme ancient king's shadow appeared behind him. It was as though only at this moment could he truly vent his frustrations in battle. A golden flame divine falcon appeared around Zi Qingxian, as a gigantic pair of wings appeared. With a flash, she flew towards Yi Qianchen. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he moved towards the center of the battle platform, exuding an aura of supremacy. When his gaze swept over, it was as though the geniuses here were nothing. Such an aura was like he was invincible among the geniuses of the 13 prefectures. Although he was ranked last before this, the boundless sharpness radiating from him right now was extremely oppressive. Qin Ta roared in rage. He seemed to have transformed into a heavenly god, possessing boundless might. A violent surge of energy ravaged the platform as Qin Ta's footsteps caused the platform to tremble. Qin Ta's movements caused the platform to tremble as a chaotic energy flow engulfed the entire space. What did this Jun Mingchen treat him as? Yi Qianchen was incomparably carefree. The sword qi radiating from him engulfed the entire space, transforming into a terrifying sword qi tempest. The final battle began. Qin Wentian and his fellow apprentice brothers directly launched a frenzied attack. Chapter 877. Jun Mingchen and Qin Ta both started to exchange blows. Jun Mingchen's attacks had always been incomparably tyrannical. He transformed into a supreme king, borrowing the power of the king behind him. Every strike he unleashed could shake the heavens and earth. Qin Ta was an expert from the heavenly god race, and had the innate talent of the heavenly god race. His body expanded to a height of 10 meters as a 1,000-meter astral soul appeared behind him. His astral soul was akin to the astral soul of a heavenly deity, and as he attacked downwards, the heavens and earth trembled, wanting to destroy this entire space. At this moment, boundless attacks rained down on Jun Mingchen. However, Jun Mingchen roared in rage as boundless light manifested behind him. His roar shook the heavens and earth as a violent turbulence gushed forth, tearing apart everything, blocking all the incoming attacks. He's going berserk. Jun Mingchen is using that all-destroying energy again. Many immortal kings in the immortal banquet glanced at Jun Mingchen. Once this brat went berserk, there was no way to deal with him. Even someone as powerful as Tsang Ao was blasted off the platform with a single punch. He was simply too violent. The battle between Zi Qingxian and Yi Qianchen was also extremely fascinating. Zi Qingxian was like a divine falcon. Her speed was as fast as lightning. However, Yi Qianchen's sword wasn't any slower than hers. Yi Qianchen was a pure sword cultivator. His sword arts were simply too exquisite. His astral souls and constellations were all born from the sword. In an instant he could slash out over 100 sword beams, causing numerous sword scars to appear in the air, wanting to annihilate everyone before him. In addition, the might of each sword strike was extremely ferocious, as fast as lightning, or as explosive as thunder. Zi Qingshuan's speed and attacks were unleashed to the extreme. In this entire space, only her shadow remained. However, she was still suppressed by the sword light. Yi Qianchen's sword arts could be said to be perfect, impenetrable by wind and rain. Regardless of attack or defense, there were no flaws. When fighting against Yi Qianchen, one couldn't afford to be distracted for even the slightest moment. Sword cultivators reaped lives with a single sword strike. They wouldn't give their opponents any time to breathe. Qin Wentian hadn't found an opponent yet, but the rest of them were also aggressive and full of fighting spirit. Everyone was waiting with full concentration and going all out, not daring to make the slightest mistake. Ruthless' eyes were filled with a terrifying baleful aura as he stared at Qin Wentian, who was guarding the two battles. Devilish qi surged from his body, giving others a feeling that he was terrifyingly powerful and extremely dangerous. The instant he stared at Qin Wentian immediately felt a stifling pressure as his battle intent gushed forth. After which, the devilish might from Ruthless surged as he walked towards Qin Wentian, step by step. Undefeatable Demon King's disciple Li is going to attack Qin Wentian. The spectators were still paying attention to Qin Wentian. His earlier performance could be said to be extremely outstanding, but in the first round of the final battle, he was ranked last. This battle would be his final chance to rise to the top. Buzz! A devil's spear appeared in Ruthless' hand. Devilish might gushed forth as his aura towered up into the sky. On the surface of the devil's spear, terrifying runic lights flickered, exuding an incomparably ferocious aura. The attacks of devil cultivators have always been violent. Since they cultivate devil arts, their fleshly bodies are extremely strong and their combat prowess is extraordinary. Qin Wentian stared at Ruthless. He activated the battle art as beams of dazzling light radiated from him. In just an instant, Qin Wentian stood there, resembling an unshakable god of war as a fearsome battle might gushed forth, engulfing the heavens and earth. At the same time, the fiend god body refinement art was also circulated. The dazzling light from the sky demon oracle bone circulated around Qin Wentian's body, causing it to be even more dazzling and terrifying to the extreme. A long spear also appeared in Qin Wentian's hands, condensed from astral energy. The long spear in his hands also had terrifying runic lights circulating around it as a fearsome might gushed forth from it. A cold light flashed in Ruthless' eyes. He rushed out, rushing towards Qin Wentian. The devil spear in his hands directly blasted out, bringing with it a terrifying whistling sound as though the entire space was about to explode. The devil might gushed forth like a dragon, gushing forth. His devil spear had a fearsome might that could penetrate through everything. A towering devil might gathered in the surroundings, but at the same time, Qin Wentian's long spear also blasted out, aiming for Ruthless' long spear. The two long spears were like lightning, instantly colliding with each other. In just an instant, the two of them felt an extremely tyrannical force gushing forth. Die! Ruthless roared. His entire arm was covered in devil might as he blasted it towards the devil spear. Qin Wentian's arm trembled as a fearsome suppression might gushed forth. At the tip of the spear, a thunderous boom rang out. Ruthless actually took a step back, causing him to furrow his brows. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian stepped out and blasted out another spear strike. This spear strike was even faster and more ferocious, containing an irresistible force. Ruthless roared in rage. How could his devil spear retreat? He once again collided with Qin Wentian's spear. Another thunderous boom rang out as Ruthless retreated once again. The devil might gushing forth from him towered up into the sky as numerous ancient devils appeared in the air. Each of these ancient devils wielded a heaven-shaking spear in their hands, exuding an unexcelled aura. Qin Wentian similarly released his constellation. The suppression constellation frenziedly flowed into Qin Wentian's arm. Boom! Ruthless stomped the ground as the ancient devils in the air howled. In an instant, tens of thousands of devil silhouettes appeared, all of them wielding spears as they lunged towards Qin Wentian. This was simply chaos. They wanted to kill Qin Wentian here with a single strike. At the same time, Qin Wentian's silhouettes transformed into a million clones. The suppression astral soul in the air radiated boundless divine light, cascading downwards as the fiend god heavenly suppression art was unleashed to the extreme. The long spears in Qin Wentian's hands all pulsed with a towering suppression might. The millions of Qin Wentian's silhouettes similarly struck out with their spears. No matter what technique Ruthless used, Qin Wentian would directly counter it with a force similar to his. Spear against spear. Boundless suppressive light illuminated the area. When the devil might gushed downwards, that incomparably tyrannical heaven suppression spear art broke through the air. The collision this time shook the heavens and the earth. Frenzied destructive currents swept across the area. Ruthless felt as though he was being suppressed. His boundless devil might was being suppressed. With a thunderous boom, his body was flung backwards. The devil spear in his hand stabbed into the ground of the battle platform. Terrifying crackling sounds rang out as the devil spear slashed across the platform, causing sparks to appear. However, his body only stopped when he reached the edge of the platform as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. You have lost. Ruthless inclined his head, only to see the resplendent Qin Wentian pointing his spear at him as he coldly spoke, his stance extremely arrogant. I can still fight. Ruthless' voice was incomparably cold as devil might gushed forth from him, engulfing the heavens and earth. Even if you continue to fight, you will still lose. Qin Wentian roared as a supreme demonic might gushed forth from him. The aura of a monarch of the demonic Tao gushed forth, clashing against the devil might. Ruthless' eyes stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. He cultivated in devil arts and was extremely ferocious in his attacks. Yet he was actually defeated. He felt extremely unwilling in his heart. Ruthless, the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King, will still be defeated. Although his devil arts are tyrannical, this Qin Wentian has already unleashed the third level of the undefeatable Devil King. In addition to his own strength, he's simply too terrifying. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian. He wielded his long spear and stood there, resembling a descendant of a demon king. At the same time, he also resembled a fearsome god of war, completely unshakable. Jun Mingchen's battle has also concluded. He erupted forth with that incomparably tyrannical and mystical energy, as an ancient aura gushed forth from his body. Boundless energy congregated on him, the king of the heavenly god race, as he defeated Qin Ta. Qin Ta's strength was already extremely terrifying. In fact, when he attacked, there were traces of mystical law energy within, but he was still defeated by Jun Mingchen. At this moment, a shrill screech rang out from Zi Qingshuan's side. Yi Qianshan's swordplay forced Zi Qingxian to the extreme. She released her tyrannical bloodline, and was akin to a divine falcon with golden flames, shuttling through the sword qi in a domineering manner. Her palms smashed out, similar to Yi Qianshan's swordplay. Although Yi Qianshan's swordplay was incomparably exquisite, he was still defeated by Zi Qingxian. All three of them won. The spectators were all taken aback when they saw this scene. Qin Wentian, Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian, all three of them launched their attacks at the same time. For the first battle, the three of them each fought against a genius and all of them won. Such a battle record was many times more dazzling compared to their previous rankings. Staring at the battle platform, Feather King fought against Mo1. Right now, the two of them were fighting intensely, extremely violent. Feather King was the king of the winged devil race of the Western Desert Prefecture. His attacks were extremely terrifying. Mo1 transformed into the Frost King and fought against him. Right now among the 10 geniuses, the only ones who didn't fight were Gusu Tianqi and Hua Taishu. The two of them didn't clash against each other, but battle intent radiated from them as they stared at the battles of the others. Senior brother, Jun Mingchen called out. You will fight against Yi Qianshan. Qingxian will fight against Qin Ta. Change fighters. Qin Wentian spoke. Right. Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian both nodded, as though they respected Qin Wentian's words. Jun Mingchen walked towards Yi Qianshan while Zi Qingxian walked towards Qin Ta. Bastard! Qin Ta roared in rage. Was he treating them as stepping stones? After Jun Mingchen defeated him, he changed fighters again? Yi Qianshan's countenance turned ashen. He was the #1 genius of the Qian prefecture, a supreme swordsman. Qin Wentian actually allowed Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian to trample on them to prove themselves. This was simply a humiliation to them. Sword qi engulfed the heavens and earth, growing even more violent. Yi Qianshan brandished his sword and walked towards Jun Mingchen. Qin Ta howled in rage, resembling a heavenly god as he stared at Zi Qingxian in the air. Fight! How arrogant, he wants to fight them one by one. The three of them want to challenge the other 7 geniuses to prove themselves, using this method to wash away the humiliation of their low rankings in the first 2 rounds. The eyes of the immortal kings shone brightly as they stared at Qin Wentian on the battle platform. Among the 3 of them, Qin Wentian seemed to be the leader. Jun Mingchen was arrogant and violent while Zi Qingxian was calm and solemn. However, the 2 of them were willing to listen to Qin Wentian's commands. As for Qin Wentian himself, he stood in the center of the platform. Earlier, he had already defeated Ruthless. Most probably, he would issue a challenge to Hua Taishu and Gusu Tianqi. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.